Good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Nick is here.
Hello, everybody.
And this morning's show is being brought to you by thatvidblasterguy.com, Tom Sinclair, and by Adamus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. Our numbers, 919-518-9773, or Computers 2K Voice on Skype.
And today is?
Today is July 18th.
20th.
20th.
Could I get the UTC time while you're working?
I what?
Could I get the UTC time as well?
No, I'm not. I don't give the UTC time.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I can
Sorry.
be part of the show anymore.
No can do.
Looks like I gotta fix the image for the double box shot.
Why?
There's some black space at the bottom.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, no, we can just adjust it. We just gotta
You can adjust.
push everything up.
By the way, I got some nice comments about this.
About
People like it. Yeah,
the
the design.
Google.
You done good. You done good.
It cost you a pretty penny, so I mean,
Yes, I know. That's the thing. Is I'm glad to see that people like it because
yeah.
after all this money, I mean, hey.
So how do you remove all of the data from a defective drive? I know not you. I'm not asking you, M9, because you don't return defective drives.
Hammer.
You want to return it?
Absolutely, and get a replacement.
I don't know. I normally put a drill through mine, but not
You can't return it if you put a drill through it.
You can't.
If you throw it in a Linux machine, you can totally delete every part. With a Windows partition manager, it's total garbage.
Right, but how do you do that when the drive is bad?
There's some software. It's like something Nukem, Disk Nukem or something like that, and it'll totally wipe out a disk.
Even if the drive is bad?
I don't know. I guess you'd have to run it and see if the drive is totally bad and you can't erase this. Well, if the drive is bad, then how can this stuff be recovered?
Well, that's the question. I mean, they could. I mean, I'm sure there's an entire team of people at Western Digital going through returned hard drives looking for confidential information.
And what is on the drive?
My daughter's pictures, and we can't have those getting out.
Then you don't return it.
No, I'm returning it.
Well, yeah, but if you can't get the data off of it, then...
I mean, do you have the data?
It's a rhetorical question.
Mike, do you have the pictures somewhere else?
I do.
Okay, well, I mean, it's if you can't have those pictures go out, then you leave the drive and destroy it. If
what I did was once I got the pictures off of it, I moved everything over. This is the one where I had to let it run on SpinRite for a week before it got through just one little tiny section on the drive, and then I was able to get everything off of it. I then took the image, I actually imaged the drive and put it on a new same size drive that I had laying around here,
Mm-hmm.
put it in the computer, and started running various programs and things on the computer. And there were only a few things that didn't work exactly right. One of them, believe it or not, was loading the driver for the Ethernet port. And because it would say driver not found, not found, so I assumed that that may have been in the bad portion, and I reinstalled the Ethernet driver, and then the yellow exclamation point goes away. One other thing that did not work well was iTunes, but how do you know when that's part of the hard drive or it's just Apple?
iTunes doesn't work well on any Windows PC.
I mean, that's the problem. That's how you test good antivirus software. If you put antivirus software on your PC and it doesn't erase iTunes, it's garbage software.
So the drive is readable.
No, it's readable. It was a hypothetical question because I've had drives to return that were not readable.
If there's sensitive stuff on it, you throw it away. I mean, you crush it. Like,
I mean, we're lucky now the drives are so inexpensive where you can just buy a new, what's the terabyte drive, $50-$60 now?
Yeah, it's just $60. Who cares?
it all depends.
$60, who cares?
Come on.
No, it's not. It's not $60. Who cares? It's $60, and if the data is too sensitive to get out there, then you pay $60 to protect it. That's the way you look.
It's $60 on a new credit card that you're not going to pay off. That's
there
a
you go. Just go get a new credit card, put $60 on it, get a cash advance from the credit card, put it in a savings account, and throw the drive in the trash can, right?
Hey, that's my financial plan.
Okay.
All right. Fine.
I apologize, Amnon.
I don't. I would love to have a private conversation with a longtime competent engineer at Western Digital. There are things I would love to understand about hard drives. Because, I mean, hard drives have been probably the worst possible experiences you can typically have with computers. I mean, if a motherboard dies, you get another motherboard, you're back in business. You lose a monitor, you buy a new monitor. Your memory dies, you get new memory. You lose your hard drive, and rarely is it backed up to within the last hours. I mean, yeah, some people have some really sophisticated ways of doing things, but for the general public, that's not the case. And I can't tell you how many times there are so many people through when I say ignorance, I don't mean it in an unkindly way, but through lack of knowledge of what it takes to maintain a computer, have lost all of their pictures from their children or their once-in-a-lifetime vacations just because a hard drive decides to fail. And you have to wonder, Western Digital, Seagate, what's going on here? I mean, are these drives so hard to manufacture and to keep going that come out and tell us it's an unreliable technology, that we're taking our lives in our hands? I treat anything on a hard drive as susceptible to vanish at a moment's notice.
Absolutely, that's a healthy way.
But I agree. But my question is that the way Western Digital looks at it? I mean, is that what they say in their meeting rooms whenever they're having discussions about, well, we all know drives aren't worth a crap, but if we go out and tell people to back up, then we're going to be admitting our drives are crap. If our competition doesn't admit their drives are crap, then is that going to send business from Western Digital to, God forbid, Samsung or one of the others?
I don't even think they care.
But I wonder if they do. I seriously, I wonder if they care.
Look at the amount of drives that WD sells. Do you honestly think they care if you lose your data?
I don't know.
They just buy another drive.
The government gets involved in everything else we do. Why don't we make... this is obviously a sarcastic comment, so I'll preface it that way. Why don't we make it such that if a hard drive sold by a United States company fails within the first 5 years, the company has to provide data recovery for free?
No, why would you want that?
I would very much want
that. That's
a
horrible idea.
Why? It's a wonderful idea.
No, it's not.
It's fabulous.
Like, are you out of your mind?
No, I'm wonderful. Why wouldn't we want that? There are things on hard drives that are easily recoverable by people who are companies that are competent to do it, that you and I cannot get the same stuff off the hard drive. There's a guy, for example, I'm in a radio broadcasting email list. There's a guy on the list. A lot of these, as you know, have heard, these radio broadcast engineers are tinkerers. They are often required to do things like keep radio stations on the air 24/7, sometimes 10 radio stations on the air 24/7, with little more than a screwdriver and a volt-ohm-meter. They just are not given the resources because the radio stations will not spend the money. Well, these guys are naturally, I guess to be in broadcast engineering, you have to be naturally curious because it's sure you're not doing it for the money. But a lot of these guys are tinkerers, and there's one guy who decided to learn the hard drive business. He kind of did like Amnon. He started dissecting them, learning how they work, watching how the heads work, seeing how the platters line up. And so he says, send me a hard drive. I don't have a clean room, but I'll dig through it. And he said, more often than not, I'll get your data back. And say, well, why not? Well, because he wants about a third of what OnTrack or one of the legitimate companies wants. He gives no guarantee for it. And once he's done with the drive, no one else is going to get anything off of it forever. So when would you send it to him?
Well, if it's a drive that's really not that important, maybe.
Well, then why bother?
True. I would never send my drive. I mean, it'd have to be a real weird situation for me to send my drive to a company to repair it.
You will send the drive to somebody like that, Mike, if the info on it, the data, is not critical, but you'd like to have it. I mean, I'm not going to pay a lot of money to get it. It would be nice to have it. I mean, I have a backup about 3 days ago, but in the last 3 days, I added a couple of documents and a few pictures. So, yeah, I'll pay a little bit to get it done. And if it doesn't happen, what the hell? That's why people will send it there. But I want to take it a step back. So you keep all your information on a columnar pad. Okay?
Okay.
And you keep a what do you call it when you write everything that you do?
A journal.
A journal. So
how about billing records?
The manufacturer knows that those pages are susceptible to water. They're susceptible to burn. So if you happen to spill water on it or something, are they going to give you the data? Are they going to give you a new journal? No.
Well, they should.
You're buying a piece of hardware, and you're going to have to prove to Western Digital that it was their fault that it happened. How about it was your fault because the computer did something, your power fluctuated a few times? Who knows?
Okay, I've never heard of a computer destroying a hard drive.
Oh, do you see? Well, come on, Mike. We work on computers all the time.
Tell me one instance where a computer hurts a hard drive.
CPU gets hot.
Okay.
But when you're saying destroys, I'm not talking about destroying the hardware, even though that could happen with voltage. And you know it. You're not going to argue that.
No,
but
I would argue that.
Data, I mean, we know that if you take a hard drive and your power just happens to flicker when the hard drive is updating the FAT, the hard drive is gone.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that because hard drives in the very early days, yes, I would. But there are ways of buffering data before it is written to the FAT. There are ways they have, for example, hard drives have mechanisms built into them. I don't know what they call them inside the company, but I would call them like anti-head bounce mechanisms in them, such that the old days where you could even with a desktop computer you could bump the computer and cause the head to bounce and do damage or lose data on the hard drive.
Right, in the old days.
And now they've got ways of controlling those heads, keeping them. Maybe it's a screw mechanism instead of a spring. I don't know. They've got ways of doing things to prevent those damage issues from occurring. So no, I don't agree that it's that a hard drive is really susceptible to damage from the motherboard. And I mean it sincerely when I say that I'm not aware of a circumstance in which a motherboard has actually damaged a hard drive that I'm aware of. Now, I do suspect, but I don't have no way of knowing, that this hard drive that I dealt with, that there is possibly a good chance that exactly what you are saying happened. Maybe the computer was dropped or bumped or something happened, because the damage is only at one spot and it was severe. So whatever anti-shock mechanism may have been designed into this drive, if there is such a thing, and if there was a shock, it didn't work. Now, I don't think that hard drive companies ought to be able to or should be required to manufacture a hard drive that if you put a bullet through it, it still works. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it's kind of like podcast consultants. These companies generate a false sense of security. They make things sound easy and reliable that are not. And I just don't think that we're getting the whole story. I mean, look how many times we have to preach, back up your data, back up your data. Right. And how many times we as individuals are guilty of not doing the same thing that we preach. I had, honest to goodness, I had in 2011, after December, let's see, I guess it was probably the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, somewhere along in there. I did a half day's work on a spreadsheet summing up a business venture that I have, summing up the data on an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, it was a lot of work. It was a full day's worth of work. And I lost a hard drive. Okay, no problem. I have yet to find that file. I have no idea where it went. It disappeared. And I thought I had it backed up, and in fact, that whenever it was, I was actually using Mozy Backup. And so I said, okay, good, at least I'm going to find on the Mozy. I am not, honest to goodness, I went to my backup server where I had backed up the file, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Mozy stopped working on December 27th.
Yeah.
It just stopped.
Yeah, they never told you. There was no indication that it's not working.
It just stopped.
Yep.
And this was probably the 30th of December.
Yep.
Never had to go back and recreate that file. And there were some things in there that I'd found and probably ended up losing a couple of $100 because there were some things that were really hard to research that I found and was able to work out. And when I redid it, it was so much work, I just said, screw it, and I just went with the data that would inure to my detriment instead of to the detriment of the other side.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike, the situation with whether or not they guaranteed the hardware, and they say if it fails, and I've never seen anybody that returned a drive, no matter what the reason was, that they did not get a new one from the manufacturer. They guarantee that, but they don't guarantee the data, because the data can get corrupted in so many other ways. And like, you're thinking that this drive may have been dropped because no. I'm saying you think it was bumped because everything is in one section and severe.
No, I don't think that's what happened. I'm thinking that's what could have happened.
Okay. The only way to tell is to open. And don't think that today's drives are immune against bumping. They are less sensitive than the older drives. But if you take a 2.5-inch drive and it's running and writing and you pop it on the desk or you really cause a shock there, it will crash.
Well, I know, because they're mechanical things and mechanical things break, I guess.
But the point is, you cannot keep the head. When a drive crashes, it's when the head touches the platter. Because when the drive runs, there is a little air gap that is created by the spinning that keeps the head off of the platter. It doesn't really touch it. It touches it at the very end when it stops. That's why if you open a drive and just spin it slowly, you hear it's no big deal because it's in a section of the drive that is not important, and it's very slow. When you take that and it's spinning at 10,000 RPM and you bump it and it touches, it scratches the drive, and that's the crash. Now, you cannot keep the head that far from the platter by any mechanical means, because it's not made to be like that. Now, I'm saying what I'm thinking. It may be that they do have a way to do that. But I've seen, in the last year, I've seen one hard drive that was crashed and had a huge scratch on it.
You took it apart and looked at the platter.
I always do that because, well, this was a drive that was about 3-4 years old. It was I think it was a 500 SATA. Yeah, I always, you know me, I open and I look because the person did not care about spending $1,000 to get anything. And I said, well, I can try and get something out of it. I could not. And I said, well, do you want to see? Because I was asking, it was a woman, and I was asking, did you bump it? Did you? No. I said, okay, well, we can open and just take a look. And I opened it, and sure enough. So it does happen. Now, it could also have happened electronically, that somehow the head fell down at a not at the parking section of the drive when power went out. And I don't know at what RPM it's going to start touching the platters. But it's a very sensitive thing, and I don't know that now here. Let's talk audio, Mike. If you buy a cassette that has music on it, and a month later you lose that music, it's kind of like erased or part of the song or whatever. You think they'll give you a new one? I don't think so.
I don't think that's a comparison. I don't think that's a.
It is. Comparison. It's data. It's data.
Yeah, but I mean, it's if you were paying $100 for that cassette and they told you to put your life story on it,
yeah,
then there might be a different way of reviewing it. They might say,
but they also tell you to back it up because you could lose it. I mean, it would be nice if they did, but I don't see how that's ever going to happen. The point is, back it up. Back it up, back it up, back it up. And that program that Dave was talking about, I can't remember something. Now I don't remember the name of it. That backs it up, duplicates everything right away to another drive on the network. There's no, it's free. Do you remember the name of it?
Mm-mm.
It was a girl's name, something, backup or something like that.
Oh,
Anybody?
You're talking about Karen?
Yeah. I mean, it's free. Get it and use it.
But if you buy an external hard drive, most of them come with backup software.
Not this type of backup. They have a backup software that you like clone, sort of like a thing. You have to sit there and.
I think they've got, some of them have better than that. Now you have to be careful which software, which version of the drive you buy, because they package them differently, and I get that. But some of them come with actually very decent backup software, and I think this is one place, based on what little I know, and it is little, is that Apple again owns the market with the concept, because they came up with this thing, Time Machine, I believe it was called.
Yeah.
even Apple users could use how to do an effective backup, and that's saying a lot.
And that's apparently a good piece of software.
I'm sure it is. I mean, even if it were crap when it were released, they've had time. Of course, they haven't fixed
And
iTunes.
for years and years, I've been using that program called Second Copy, which
Yep, I have too.
is the same thing as that Karen program.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
they all do
nice.
the same thing.
The what?
They all do the same thing.
Yeah. You write you write a file, and within seconds, it's on that other drive, external drive, another computer on the network. It's a nice way to have something like that. So they do tell you to back it up, and unfortunately, accidents will happen. This is why we keep telling you guys, back it up, back it up. You have to back it up. If it's important, back it up.
I'm looking at the reason I'm distracted
Yeah.
here is I'm looking at this link that Jeff posted at iosafe.com. I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at.
Mike, they're saying that your audio is much lower than mine. I mean,
Well, then turn it up.
it's
I'm speaking at the same level I normally speak.
yeah. Maybe mine is too high.
That could be it.
And Nick's level to coming back to me is the same as yours.
Yeah, same, vice versa.
Does my level seem okay to you, Nick?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
your
and
ambulance
your
are fine.
and yours seems okay to me too. So that's interesting.
But I had my head
Yeah,
turned a
but
little
Mike,
bit,
go
too.
ahead. So you were looking
I'm
at
trying
that.
to understand what this is. It's IOSafe DRS, the ultimate safety net for the ultimate line of hard drives. The IOSafe Data Recovery Service, DRS, provides a one-time use, no questions asked, data and hardware recovery service for any loss, no matter the reason. Is this just a service where you send them a hard drive and they take one shot at it? I mean, I don't know what this is. Or are they selling you a hard drive that has a one-time data recovery guarantee? I'm distracted and trying to read it at the same time, but let's see what we got here. eSATA required for full support, fireproof.
Oh no, I believe it's an external. I believe they're external hard drives. Standard external HHD. Yeah, no, I think they're just selling a hard drive.
So what's the thing with the recovery?
I have no clue, but I'm
Apparently
looking at this.
recovery is built in. It's what I was saying, that the company should be required to provide free data recovery if your drive crashes, and apparently that's what this is. Let's see. On their equipment only, Yeah, I'll have to learn how to use a microphone, Tim. These things are new to me.
Audio is not important.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any news this week, or are we talking about hard drives for the next 3
Oh
hours?
no, we have some news, but I mean, this is important. I mean, Mike is bringing up some points that everybody should. I mean,
Yeah, but so here's the problem with backing up your data, right? It's in reality, it's great to say I back up my data, but people just don't do it. And if somebody is, like I said before, if somebody's not backing up their data, they'll lose everything, and then they'll start backing up their data.
right, that's the bottom line: is you have to back up your data.
I did my first backup like 3 weeks ago. I've never done a backup before.
Well, you have to back it up to get it back.
Yeah, see, I've never had an experience of losing it, so I've never had a problem of having to back it up to get it back.
Boy, do you have a life ahead of you.
Now I have back it up to get it back, so I'm fine.
As long as you have designated everything to back up that you need to get back.
Well, I only have one computer, so there's not really much else to back up.
But you used Carbonite. Did you go in and manually select what it is to back up, or did you go with the defaults?
I went with the defaults and then added all the stuff from my iDrive to back up as well.
Which is that video?
No, iDrive is my data drive.
Okay, because it did not back up any video.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want it to back up any video.
Okay.
All my video is published, so I don't really need it.
Well, It's as long as as long as we're talking about backing up and backing up, hopefully it will sink in to some of the people that don't. And
Here's the thing, Amnon. If you and I do business differently, I guess that's why neither one of us is rich, because we do things differently than the way a lot of companies do. But if I had a clean room, if I had the equipment, if I had the knowledge and expertise to be able to do data recovery,
yeah,
my services would be expensive. But you know what? If you send me the drive, if I can't back up the data, there's no charge.
yeah, and that doesn't happen with OnTrack. They charge you something anyway,
They
and
all charge you something, and I don't fault them for that.
right,
I am just saying that as a business, look, if I had the ability to do data recovery like even the average data recovery company, which probably, I'll make up a number, let's say they're successful 80% of the time. If I had a company that was that successful, and let's say that the average charge to recover a hard drive is $1,500, I guarantee you these guys don't sit there and do $1,500 worth of labor to get the drive back. They hook it up, probably give it a 15-minute looking over, and then they let everything run. They either get it or they don't. In some circumstances, they may have to swap hard drive boards. They may have to maybe open up the drive and replace a spring on the head. I mean, it's not a trivial thing. I'm sure they break in a lot of ways. But I guarantee you, well, I can't guarantee anything. In my opinion, these hard drives, if you find someone spending charging $1,500 to recover a hard drive, I bet they don't have an hour tied up in it of actual labor. Now, I don't mean they may have to run,
Yeah.
they may have to let things run a week, but as far as actual labor sitting there, I don't believe they do it. Could be wrong.
probably not.
I was once.
But why do you need a clean room?
But I know you don't believe it's necessary, but actually a particle of dust.
No. Tell me, for what operation do you need a clean room?
Do you need a clean room? You're supposed to, by industry standard, have a clean room when you open a hard drive.
To open it. That's what I'm
Correct.
after. So to open it, and if you're going to open it, do you think that you're going to have the ability to do what OnTrack is doing if you open it? No. You are not going to be able to replace a spring, because it's the whole arm is the spring. The only thing, and they don't do that either. You know what they do if a drive doesn't spin? They take it, they open it, they take the platters off of that drive, and they insert those platters into a working drive of the same model.
I certainly don't understand the technology.
Now,
so
but wait,
when I
Mike.
said the spring,
Mike.
I was just making that up.
Mike, but for this, you don't need a clean room. You can have a box with gloves, those things that you put your hands through and all that, and that is a clean environment. If you want to do that, and you really believe in a clean room, you don't have to have the whole room clean. You just have that little box that is sealed and has fans that exhaust everything out of it and create vacuum or whatever you want. And you have those inserts that you put your arms through, gloves, and you can work on that drive. But unless you have the ability and you have the stock of different drives to do that with, you're not going to need a clean room. Because and remember, the only time I do open a hard drive is when all else failed and the customer does not want to pay anything to have anything done, and they don't want, they have nothing they can do with that drive. And I said, okay, well, let's open it. And opening it is just, in the early days when I was opening them, do you remember the RLL drives?
Sure.
And those, and even the early IDEs had a problem of leakage of oil from the spindle. And it will be like, when you open the drive, it'll be like a sun on the platter. And if it happened to stop when you turn off the computer, if it happens to stop where the head touched a streak of that oil, when you start the computer, it will not start spinning because there's not that much force. It's not a half horsepower thing. It's very, very, it's very fast, but it's very weak. So that's why I used to open it, is to open it and give it a spin and start the drive to back it up. Because, yeah, with your finger, you can spin it. But the motors did not have enough force to do that. In many cases, you could take the drive when it stopped and bang it good on the desktop, and that will get it loose. And then you can connect the electrical connector and see if it's spun. And in many cases, it would.
Okay, we're losing Nick. So
why? What happened to Nick?
He's fallen asleep.
I'm falling asleep.
So then let's move on to the next issue then, and it's early, but I'm curious, how are we doing with SSDs? Are we finding them to have bad failure rates, and when they fail, are they poof, they're gone, or is there any sort of warning? If and when will SSD be a solution to less loss of data?
I have no clue. I don't think they've been out long enough. People have been using them long enough.
All right. Hey, Spans. Yeah, I've never put my hand on one even.
Well, here's one right here. Is a 256.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the same one I have. Yeah.
Here's a 120.
I don't think consumers haven't been using them long enough for you to find out. I mean, the people that are using SSDs now are people that have bought computers probably within the last 2 years, and even this still, you go to like a Walmart and look at like the $400 laptop that they sell. It doesn't have an SSD. It's still got a regular.
No, not a $400 laptop. Yeah. But how long?
So you look at what regular consumers are buying. They're not buying an $800-900 laptop that's coming with an SSD.
But a lot of every MacBook Air has one.
Yeah. Well, so do the MacBook Pros.
So they've been out a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see.
My SSD's been fine. I haven't had any problems with it.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if these are better. We're still not suggesting that you should not have your data backed up to the last 30 seconds. That's the optimum. But I'm wondering, the predictions are that whenever an SSD fails, it's going to just poof and it's gone. But I'm not positive that's true, because you can get, for example, bad sections in memory, even in a computer. Let's say that you have a memory module fail in your RAM. It causes a blue screen of death on your computer.
Right.
Yes, I dealt with that for a very long time.
And sometimes it can make your computer inoperable. But let's say, for example, just make this up because this is not even really a valid situation. But let's say that you have a bad memory module in your computer. Let's assume for purposes of discussion that you only have one RAM module in your computer. Now, instead of being able to find the bad one and replace it, which is the solution, let's just assume that you only have one 4 gig module in your computer and there's a bad part of that RAM module. You try to back up your data or get some information back or do a particular function, and you're unable to do so because you keep getting the blue screen of death. In reality, you can sometimes boot into the safe mode, or even better still, into the DOS mode, and do an awful lot of low-level functions that will never give you the blue screen of death because the extended memory is never accessed, so you never get into the section of the RAM that's bad. So what I'm saying is that in certain situations, having a defective RAM module is not an all-or-nothing situation. There are sometimes workarounds. With very early SSDs, you would get bad spots, or what I think they called it cell fatigue. What happens is that the drive would rewrite to the same cell over and over again. It would exceed the number of read-write cycles that the cell was able to maintain. Now the drives instead write data randomly across the drive. They have a lookup table that tells where the data are so that it does not fatigue the cells. It supposedly writes to the cells the same number of times, and therefore it dramatically extends the life of the hard drive.
Oops. Okay, whoever call again.
What'd you do?
Nothing. I mean, we were waiting. I didn't want to stop you, but they hung up.
You need to stop me.
Mike, honestly, I have no clue.
I'm not anxious to get some feedback from people too.
I'd say give it 2 or 3 more years, and then I think you'll have most low-end consumer laptops, which unfortunately that's what people are buying. Those SSDs will start rolling out in those, and then you'll start either hearing the horror stories of I lost all my pictures from my newborn son, or you won't hear those stories. So I think we've still got 2 or 3 more years before every consumer's got their hands, or most consumers have their hands on those.
So I have another question, and particularly it's very timely that Brent posted the picture in chat of the inside of a solid-state drive, which is exactly what you would think it would look like.
Yeah.
But here's my question, and I'm in the business. How can a solid-state drive not be dramatically cheaper than a mechanical drive?
Because isn't the flash memory still very expensive, isn't it?
How can that be, though?
I have no clue.
Yeah, I see what Mike is saying. I mean, it's
This is just a circuit board.
That's all it is. It's a circuit board.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, from a manufacturing level, probably oversimplifying it. That's okay. I've done it before. From a manufacturing perspective, the manufacturing of the solid-state drive, and that is automated pick-and-place machines placing these chips and resistors and capacitors and things, connectors, onto a printed circuit board, is 100% automated, an extremely dependable, reliable, highly competent process that whenever these things come off the assembly line, I hate to tell you this, but sometimes the manufacturing process becomes so well refined that these manufacturers don't even test these things. If 1 in 1,000 is bad for a consumer item, they're liable to just go ahead and ship it and deal with the aftermath rather than spend the money and the time to test all 1,000. Sometimes they'll test 1 out of 10 to make sure that something hasn't gone wrong in the process like that.
And do you think it's different with traditional hard drives?
I think it probably is for a mechanical drive. I would be surprised if they don't have to test 100%.
I doubt it.
I mean, just a connector comes in, make sure it powers up, pull away, and move on. Because it'd be interesting to know what kind of quantities and how long it takes to do these things. But
yeah, we need somebody from Western Digital. You're right.
It would I don't know that they would answer the questions, but somebody from Samsung would be even better.
Well,
Amnon's got contacts.
Not at Samsung or Western Digital.
Well, you know people. You make it work, right?
Didn't Andrew lose an SSD?
Yeah, see, Andrew's SSD was having problems, but he's not using an SSD the way you're supposed to be using an SSD. He's writing, the SSDs have write limits. You can only write to the drive X amount of times. And Andrew was writing like 10 gigs an hour on his SSD from Wirecast, so I don't think he should have been using an SSD for that, and I'm not surprised that it died, because I don't think right now that's not the use case for an SSD.
Right.
The computer business is in the tank right now. It's really, everyone I know in the computer business is sucking wind. And there are 2 reasons, and non-Mac, Mac's limping along, I guess, but the 2 issues I see right now with the computer industry are that I guess the main thing right now is, well, maybe there are 2 things. I don't think there are any landmark improvements in hardware lately. I don't think that we can go out right now and buy a processor that's 4 times faster than one we could get 2 years ago. Now, I could be wrong. You guys.
You are generalizing for your use case, and I would disagree with you.
Okay, go ahead.
there have been some great improvements in graphics card uh,
Okay. All right.
speed and price over the past few years.
I accept what you're saying as being true. So that means you go out and you buy a new graphics card. You don't go buy a new computer.
Correct.
Well, that's a little different than what I am saying. Hello, Colm. And by the way, welcome, Michael Manna. So anyway, so you go out and Merle, good Sunday morning to you. So anyway, that's an upgrade. But what I'm saying is that you don't buy a new one, because I think that we're at a point, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're at a point where the improvements in motherboards are incremental. They're not a big deal. You go out and if you're going to buy a new computer, you're going to buy the latest, greatest, fastest you can afford. But at the same time, if you've got a nice motherboard, it's really like a 3770 i7 and so forth, then you can just go buy the updated graphics card. The other thing that I think is really hurting computers, and I don't want to really start a long discussion on this because I don't care, but I think Microsoft blew it with Windows 8. I mean, you go out and buy a new one now, you're going to have to get Windows 8 on it. And let's suppose that all you've heard is the most common complaints about no start button, Windows programs full screen, not the windowing and all that. I mean, you don't know about the utilities to give you the start button back and those sorts of things. Now, having said that, I think that, and I hope that whenever Windows 9 is released, if it does have the user interface that most people are clamoring to get back, I wouldn't be surprised to see a pretty major upswing in computer sales for a while. I would hope that's the case. We'll see. I'm hoping that there's some pent-up demand for new computers that do what you want them to do.
What a great segue.
Oh, there
Listen
you go.
to this. A leaked alpha of
not to interrupt, but Colm said that's right. He said Windows 8 is terrible. Windows 9 will be a resurgence, and I hope that is correct. But having said that, Windows 8 is not terrible. The Windows 8 experience is terrible. For most people, that means exactly the same thing. But I don't think there is a problem with the Windows 8 operating system. It works well. It just imposed a user interface on people that they didn't want and don't like. So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, so a leaked alpha of Windows 9 has been brewing on the internet. Today, a screenshot shows what Microsoft showed us at Build, which includes a start menu with additional tiny tiles for things like people, calendar, PC settings, and news, etc. The new hybridized start menu appears to be part of Build 9788, which was compiled on July 4th. While nowhere seems to have leaked the iOSs for Build 9788 yet, the general consensus seems to be that the build does indeed exist somewhere at Microsoft, and that it might also feature Windows NT kernel version 6.4, i.e. the complete version number is 6.4.9788. The screenshot shows a Windows 8.1 Pro watermark, but this isn't unusual for a very early alpha of a new build of Windows. If this really is the next version of the Windows NT kernel, then we're most likely looking for an early build of Windows 9 threshold rather than Windows 8.2. Now, that's just a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be also that somebody just doctored that image that they were showing. I don't know that it would accomplish anything for somebody to just put info like that out there if it's not true, but you can never tell these days. The thing is that I think at this point, Microsoft knows that they screwed up with the start menu, with the ease of use.
Question, Amnon, that I've asked over and over and over again, and no one has given me a better answer. And because we got some new people in chat, and maybe they've got a thought, but give me one reason. Let's assume that I'm at an enterprise where it's much more expensive and difficult to do things. and I'm sitting at my desk. I'm manager of IT. The Microsoft salesman walks in and says, Mike, you guys really need to get updated to Windows 8. Okay, great. I'm going to have to go sell this to management. So give me a list of all the things that Windows 8 can do for me that Windows 7 is not now doing.
And that's exactly what you're going to get from him, silence.
Right. Well, but it's touchscreen able. We don't do touchscreen. But it's a great feature. We're not going to go buy all new touchscreen monitors. Okay, well, it has nice graphics. Okay, it's a business. We don't do a lot of graphics, and every time people change to new graphics, we have a training curve we have to go through. There is a certain amount of implementation cost. So give me I'm asking you again, what am I going to go tell management as well, it's going to have a longer life than Windows 7. All right, how much time do I have left on Windows 7? 6 years or whatever. Okay, that's not good. So tell me, what is it? And you know what? There may be something out there. Oh, but we have the charms. That's one of the worst things about Windows 8. I mean, I just don't know of anything, and that's giving Microsoft the benefit of the doubt. And even if we had your buddy from Microsoft, I forget his name, your buddy from Microsoft, even if he were on here, he's a good sport in that he lets us hit him between the eyes and he can come back swinging. But I don't even know if I'd ask him the question, because I don't think there's an answer. I really don't think there is a reason for an individual, the only reason an individual should move to Windows 8 is because that's what's available on a new computer when you go out to buy one.
Right.
That's not a reason to move to Windows 8.
That's no reason to buy Windows 8 and try to upgrade to it, you mean?
You know, we've got our perfectly legal licensed versions over here. I've never installed it on a computer. Yep. My total involvement with Windows 8 was using it with Rick's house, and for a couple of weeks there, it was touch and go.
Yeah, there's really no reason. There's absolutely no reason. And the thing is that the ones that make the decision to do that, whether it's a good idea or not a good idea, are not the few that, I know people that swear by Windows 8. But corporate...
For what reason?
Because they like it. They like the way it works. They like the touch. They like, it's people that I don't know, I don't want to insult, but you got nothing else to do. That's not the point. The point is the decision makers are corporate America. And corporate America, unless they decide, okay, yes, we're going to switch, it's not going to happen. Because in corporate America, when you have 30, 40, 50, 500 people sitting there on computers, using them every day for different tasks, you suddenly lowered the boom with something completely different, you start losing money.
Well, people saying that Windows 8 is more secure than Windows 7.
You can secure a Windows 7.
Well, and that's my point as well. More secure in what way?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that secure from what? People being able to hack into your operating system?
Right. It's there are things. Windows, in my opinion, Windows was never unsecured from day one. What was wrong with Windows is that it was not configured to be secured. It had the security, but it's like a house that you're buying and you leave all the doors open so people can come visit you. They wanted Windows to be easy for everybody to use. So instead of closing all the ports and all the possible vulnerabilities, and there are vulnerabilities that there's nothing they can do about, absolutely, or that was not, that could create people coming in. But in the early days, it was mainly because it was left open. It's the same thing with Unix. Only Unix comes in, everything is almost everything is closed. And the sysadmin has to open this port and this port. Okay, yeah, we need this port for that, and we need this port for that. Versus, let's close this because we don't need it, and let's close this because we don't need it, and let's close this because then you have hundreds of ports to close. And I think this is how it all started in the beginning with Windows. But because the people that used it were not Microsoft engineers or system administrators or whatever, it was not looked at it that way. And everybody was thinking, okay, Windows is bad. The only thing that
the new question.
The what?
Let me ask a new question.
Yeah.
And I throw this out to the chat room as well. Based on, and we don't know what really is going to be in Windows 9. I don't think. We hear rumors, and there are certainly trial balloons that are floated. But based on anything you've read or heard at this point to anyone, what will be the benefit of moving from Windows 7 to Windows 9?
We don't know yet.
Well,
I mean, if there's a place that starts spitting out dollar bills, then yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's for them. Look, how long does it take people to switch from XP to something new, even though XP is already unsupported? It's still being used in millions and millions, a majority out there, right?
Last I saw was like still 25% of all computer installations.
Why?
XP.
There's a reason.
Because people don't want to update. That's the problem.
That's right. But why don't they want to update, Nick? And the reason why, it goes back to the question, and certainly we as techies, I mean, we want to update. Windows 7, I think, is great. I'm very happy with it. But here's the question: why don't people want to update? And I say that there are two very important reasons, and then I'm going to qualify one of the remarks. The two reasons that people don't want to update: number one, it's a lot of trouble, particularly in an enterprise environment, and it's expensive. It's not just update. Again, this is where Apple owns the market on updates. You go in, you click, you go take a vacation, come back, it's updated, and theoretically everything's there and it works well. That's the way an update should work. However, it's not quite that way when you go from XP 32-bit to Windows 7, Windows 8 64-bit. It's not that easy. Second thing is the problem that, and this is where Amnon, I think, is guilty, is that what's the benefit? What am I going to be able to do with Windows 7, Windows 8 that I cannot now do with my XP computer? I'm reading email. I am surfing the internet. Tell me what it is. Tell me what the benefit is once I do the upgrade. And the answers are very few.
And even those that are there are not that important to go through that. And that's why it's not happening.
Now, I will say that, and this may come as a shock to you, Nick, but I will say that I am a believer, and I do recommend to the people who ask me computer questions that every day that goes by, I think we are one day closer to the time when you should get rid of XP.
Yeah.
Because it is no longer a supported operating system.
Yeah, but people won't.
Huh?
People won't.
Well, they won't until something goes wrong. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, Spence says the cost of hardware to upgrade. Tim says drivers. These are very valid issues, and that as time goes on and you lose a motherboard or something goes over, you're done with XP. You're not going to go build a new computer and put XP on it if you have a brain.
Now, Amnon said that that's what he plans on doing.
He's not. He thinks that, but he won't.
Yeah, Amnon says that.
You did say that.
Morning, Spence.
Good morning. How's it going?
All right.
Long time no see. Turn him up.
I am. You're whispering.
I'm whistling. Yeah, I'm just not talking loud because it's only 6 o'clock here. But I have a rare Sunday off, which is unusual.
So you're up at 6 on your day off?
What's that? Oh, well, yeah, I get up very early. I usually get up between 4:45 and 5:15.
Why?
So, because I'm working 70 hours a week. It's not unusual. Yeah, I probably go 10 days without a day off. Depends on what you're doing. But we are working really hard here. So a lot of, not unusual to have a 12-hour shift.
So are you on the phone, Spence?
I'm on the phone because I didn't know, what are you using for audio to call in?
We're using, it's not for audio. We are
I mean,
using
for the
Hangout. We are using Hangouts now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Do you want to join a Hangout, or do you have data available that you can do it?
Oh, I do. Yeah,
I'll send it to him.
I can give it a shot. I'll drop and I'll try to join. But what's the name of the Hangout?
Hold it. I'll keep going here. I'll need to start.
No, it's fine. I'll do it, Amnon.
You have his.
Spence, are you on Skype?
Am I on Skype? No. So you're using, tell me how this works. 'Cause I know that you switched, but I've been under a rock here as far as that goes.
All right, so if
you want me to log into Skype?
I sent you the link.
Combs says he loves the Google Hangouts, makes Wirecast way too expensive. That's not really true. Hangouts will not give you the quality that you're going to get with a Wirecast type based solution. I mean, we actually took a step back in quality when we went with Hangouts.
Yeah.
The video nor audio quality of a Hangout can come close to what we were getting on Skype. But there are some other benefits like the automatic switching and so forth that for this type of show, which is really, as we've always said, it's a radio show that is audio show with video. The video is secondary. But it's fun to test and fun to play with, but it is not a substitute for sure. Not an equivalent substitute is what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, it's Com, we're using Google Hangout, and we're using VidBlaster and Wirecast all. It's a big soup.
Yep.
It's a big disaster.
Yeah, it works. Shh.
Yeah, but if it wasn't complicated, you wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Spence, did you get it?
What am I getting?
Oh, I thought Nick sent you the address for the Hangout.
I did.
Yeah.
Where did he send it?
On Skype.
Oh, okay. All right, let me.
You can hang up.
logging
You
in
can
there.
hang up if you have to hang up and.
All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll hang up and I'll try to. I'll
Okay.
be here. I'll be listening, and I'll try to join.
Okay.
I have some opinions on Microsoft.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Talk to you in a few.
All right.
Bye bye.
It's I don't understand the comment about that. I love that Google Hangouts makes Wirecast way too expensive.
You just say he's saying for basic switching you don't need Wirecast, and I agree with him. But
Oh yeah,
it doesn't do what Wirecast does at all.
Com, we're not using Hangouts on air.
No, I think he knows that, Amnon.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't know. I don't understand this mentality of not upgrading.
Well, until you have a computer that has a bunch of older programs and a bunch of other programs that you cannot just upgrade, that you have to start installing them, then you'd understand. But that's what I was going to say. That
Yeah,
for
but
somebody,
I've and you know this as well as I know this. Windows 7 has Windows XP compatibility mode, and I would argue that 95.
no, it's not.
Software that you try to use on XP will work perfectly fine on
You
Windows.
don't understand what I'm saying. It's not the matter of how to run it. It's a matter of how to arrive to the point of being able to run it. You're still going to have to install it. You have to configure it. You have to do all
your configuration. I mean, so you're honestly telling me the reason that you don't upgrade to Windows 7 is because you have to reinstall the software?
Yes.
See, I don't think that's a valid argument.
Well, when you have 2.5 programs to do, it's okay. But when you have about 80 different pieces of software to port over and to install, it takes time.
Oh, I get you. I do a Windows
That's the
reinstall
reason.
in 6 to 8 months and
Yeah.
have to reinstall everything. But
That's the reason. It's because it takes forever to do all these programs. As far as running them after the fact, I'll go along. I mean, I'm not saying that everything is going to run under Windows 7, and if you think that it will, fine. But the problem is how to get there. I mean, it's not a problem to go to a Cadillac dealership and buy a new Cadillac for you, is it?
No,
You
it's
can.
more
All you
than
have to do is just walk in and buy the car and pay for it. That's all it takes. It's getting to the dealership, go walk in, say, I want this $70,000 car, sit down, sign the papers, and that's it. Now, how to get to the point of being able to afford it, that's the path.
And Amnon, if and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but for
No.
every time you've said that you don't want to spend the time upgrading to XP,
Yeah.
you could have been on Windows 7 with all of your programs. It really doesn't take
But
that
you're
long.
missing the point on that, Nick. You'd have to find something else to gripe about, so it's a
Right.
wash.
Yeah.
I mean, I get installing software is a pain in the ass.
I hate it.
Every 6 to 8 months I do a total Windows reinstall, delete all of my stuff, buy 2 new hard drives, and then buy 1 new hard drive, and then I do my reinstall. It's a total pain. But when you're sitting on XP and having to do a registry hack to get Windows updates, I mean, is that really where you want to be?
Well,
No.
but, look, and I don't mean this to come off sounding the wrong way, because you're a pain in the butt sometimes, but it's a thrill to have you here because you absolutely bring an extraordinarily good perspective to this show.
Yep.
But the reality is that Amnon and I have data going back to the time when you were in diapers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and for some people, I'm sure it's not practical to upgrade. But for everybody
That's
that
the
complains
word.
they can't upgrade is full of it, because people are more than, if Amnon really wanted to upgrade, he could. He's more than capable of doing that upgrade. Mike, so are you, and so is everybody
well,
else.
I do upgrade. I mean, I really, in reality right now, I'm sitting here, and when I type in chat today on the show, I'm typing on an XP machine. It is still my primary quote-unquote work machine. What that means is that I have all my text-based things on there. My email is there. My when I have like Outlook for email, Thunderbird for email. I have some utilities like a little program called Magic Mail Monitor that is a pop box peeker that I use to periodically test certain pop boxes to make sure the servers are adequate. I mean, just little stuff like that I
Right.
run on it that doesn't hurt a thing. It doesn't require, in fact, the program, this Magic Mail Monitor, I don't even know if it'll run on the Windows 7. Probably will, don't know. But the main thing it has on it that is a problem is Adobe Audition 1.5, which is the audio program that I use. I like it. I don't want to change. It does what I need. It doesn't like Windows 7. Yes, it runs on Windows 7, but and this part I don't understand, Nick. Maybe you can explain it to me. But it causes the desktop to shift to the old style desktop instead of to the whatever the
Switches to Aero mode.
Arrow or non-arrow.
It would switch to Aero mode, I believe. But you could disable that in the Windows settings so no software can make it switch to Aero mode. I have software that does that as well. XSplit switches me to Aero mode.
Well, that's right. What happens when you turn off the ability to switch to Aero mode?
The GUI doesn't look as nice. For XSplit at least. XSplit is the GUI just doesn't look as nice. It has like a weird box around the outside of it, but it's still fully
Mike, it's
functioning
like
software.
taking XP. Remember, it's like taking XP and setting the advanced settings for speed, for performance, and it does away with all the pretty things.
Yeah.
That's the kind
Well,
of thing.
I'm actually for for Adobe Audition, what I'm really going to do is I've got two other computers over here. Actually, I got more than that. That I'm going to keep one of them on XP, and what I'm really going to do is use it as a dedicated workstation for Adobe Audition. Eventually, that's all that's going to be on it, and that's fine. That's no different than Nick in the case of upgrading. People who have TriCasters that run on XP, they're not going to go throw out their TriCasters because Windows 8's available.
Yeah, of course. Now, see, I am perfectly fine with Mike Phillips running software Adobe Audition that does not run great on Windows XP on a dedicated, or does not run great on Windows 7 on a Windows XP box. That is not my complaint with people not wanting to upgrade. It's when you run all of your software on XP because you need one program that doesn't run great on Windows 7.
No, I'm sitting here using three computers. All of my surfing is done on an i7 with an SSD.
Yeah, and I think you're having, from what I've heard, I think you're having a good experience doing that, right? You're not any problems with software.
Well, but see, here is where, when I said a while ago that people over time are getting each day one day closer to getting rid of XP, the problem that I have with XP is, and this may sound like a trivial thing, and it really is, but the problem with XP is that it's on a machine that is slow. It's on a Pentium 4. For what I use it for text-based, that's not a big limitation. But what that means is that if somebody sends me a YouTube link in an email, oh, take a look at this, and one of my buddies sends them out all the time, and where I don't normally like getting that crap, he goes through and personally reviews every one of them and only sends out ones that he really likes. And he and I seem to have about the same sense of humor, so I really like the stuff he sends. The problem is, and this is why I use, what is this ID thing that you had me sign up?
Input Director or Synergy is the two different software.
I use Input Director so that I can move the mouse between the Windows 7 computer and the Windows XP computer as if it were the same two monitors on the same computer. And what I have to do, and it's an inconvenience, what I have to do is go in Outlook, I have to highlight that YouTube link with the mouse, copy it, drag it over to the i7 computer, and open it in the browser on the i7 computer. It's not a big deal, but it's a lot nicer if I could just click on the link and it opens. So that's something that's a reason to move. Let me tell you one more reason. Shut up, Jason. There's also another reason why people are going to increasingly move away from XP. And that is that there are certain programs like Chrome that are dying under XP.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being supported by the manufacturers. I have had to switch back to Firefox. Chrome, for me, has become unusable on XP. It crashes. Its system of, and you guys would be able to explain it better than I can, but if you go into Task Manager on any computer running Chrome, there are about 200 versions of Chrome.exe running on the computer because I run a lot of tabs. And from what I'm told, it may not be correct, that each time you open a tab, it puts a new Chrome.exe in memory.
It does, yes. That is why Chrome is the fastest web browser out there.
Okay. Well, XP gets old at XP, particularly when you're limited to 3 gigabytes of memory.
Oh, plus when you're running XP, it's either a Core 2 Duo or a P4 or a P3, so you don't have a lot of power anyway.
Right.
But even if you, Mike, let's say that what software is that? Edition 1.1.
Yep.
So let's say
no, 1.5.
1.5. How often do you use that every week?
Every day.
Okay, use that every day. So then maybe this isn't the right thing for you. But let's say you had software that really would not run on XP at all, that you maybe use once or twice a week, or sorry, wouldn't run on Windows 7. Use it once or twice a week. Spin up a VirtualBox. Run VMware VirtualBox if it's something that you use, like that. What was that? POP3 email checker or whatever.
Yep.
Let's say that wouldn't run on Windows 7. You just throw it in a VirtualBox. You load up the VirtualBox and you check it. Works fine. Great. Close on your VirtualBox and you're done.
All right, you bring up a good point. You guys keep talking about VM VirtualBox, and Jason talks about it, and you guys do it, and it works well, and I get all that. Every time I've played with it, I've ended up going in a loop and removing it from my computer. I understand the concept. I've seen it work, but somehow I'm missing something.
Yeah, now if it's software like Audition that you're using every day, now that might not be the right option for you, because the VirtualBox experience is definitely different. But if it's something that you're not using every day and is not like something where you're doing audio editing or whatever else, I think that for just regular applications, you're like Amnon runs billing software. He does Amnon. What do you do? Bills once a month? Send bills to your clients?
I bill them once a month, but I use it almost daily to enter stuff, and when I get a payment.
So that could be something that you run on a VirtualBox.
It will, and I'm not hiding behind that, because I tried and it runs under Windows 7.
Oh, okay. So, if it didn't, that is stuff that.
Yeah,
if it didn't,
I would. I mean,
VirtualBox is definitely a usable piece of software.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's simple, like entering information into billing software,
Okay,
like
tell me
that's
how
not.
it works, Nick. Tell me
what
how.
works.
Let's suppose right now that your computer science teacher says, Nick, we want you to give a presentation tomorrow to the class explaining what a virtual machine is, how to install it, how it works, and assume that no one in the room has ever played with one. How would you explain it?
So you would have to install VM software.
From where?
So the software that is most used on the software that I've used the most is VirtualBox, made by Oracle. It's a free download. You can download VirtualBox. You install it on your machine. You get the ISO from the operating system you want to run.
Let me see if I can find. Let's find that. By the way, didn't Oracle write Java?
So yeah, while you're doing that, you download.
Didn't Oracle write Java?
Or yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not off on a good foot. Go ahead.
So you download VirtualBox. You throw in your ISO for whatever OS you want to run. You do.
Hang on. Why you're going too fast? I want to break this down.
Oh, I'm just. Do you want? Are you asking me to give you a tutorial of it live, or are you just asking me to explain how it works?
I guess I'm saying let me ask you some questions. But I went to virtualbox.org. Wiki downloads, and it says page not found. I hit refresh, and there it is. All right, so what we have here is VirtualBox binaries, and what we have here, 4.3.14 for Windows hosts, x86, AMD 64. So I guess that means that it's for both. Then we've got extension packs and checksums. So here we have VirtualBox for Windows.exe. All right, so let's say I download this and install it. What's next?
You'd open up the software. You would have to have the ISO of the operating system you want to run.
All right, so this, when you say the ISO, you're talking about the file that I use to create a bootable CD or DVD that contains Windows XP.
Correct.
You have to have a licensed copy of Windows XP to be able to install it in the VirtualBox.
Actually, Windows makes ISO available. I know for Windows 7, Microsoft makes the ISO downloadable from their website without a license key. I'm not sure if that's the same for XP, but I know for a fact you can download the Windows 7 ISO just directly from their website.
Why would, okay, now see, that's confusing to me. Why would you want to install Windows 7 in a VirtualBox?
No, I'm just saying they have the ISO. I'm not sure if
I get that. Yeah, I get that, but you can't install and use it without a...
There is a good reason to do that, Mike.
Why?
Because you can run stuff in there that you would not run on your main...
I get it. I call it testing software. Okay,
yeah.
I got it. Go ahead.
So you get your ISO from your OS, you go through the installer, setting up your VirtualBox, how much hard drive space, how much RAM, all that other configuration stuff. You install your OS, you're finished installing your OS, and every time you want to run Windows XP, you open up the VirtualBox software, you click Start, pops up a window, XP boots up, and your desktop. It's not very complicated.
So how long does it take from start to finish the first time to do this?
I haven't done it in so long. I have no clue. It all
Right.
depends on this. It all depends on the speed of your hardware. I mean, I don't know how long a Windows XP install takes. I don't remember the last time I installed XP on a VirtualBox.
XP takes, on a virtual, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's all dependent on your hardware. If
Yeah.
you've got an i7 and 16 gigs of RAM,
Hey, Spence?
Hey, can you hear me?
wrong mic.
No, that's right, Mike. He's way on it.
No, I think he's on his laptop, Mike.
We can hear you, but
It's going to be pretty bad. I have to try to find my microphone. I'm not sure where it is.
You're on the right one. Or you're on one. Yeah, that'll work.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did a lot of virtual machine testing with VMware just before I left, pre-retired last summer. And the value of it is just incredible because you can test. You can have a bunch of different environments just sitting there as an image, start it up, play with it. Oh, that didn't work. Crash it, turn it off, turn it back on again. I did learn an interesting trick to try to keep Windows XP running and getting updates. And there's a registry hack that you can do that will make the system think that it's an embedded system, a store system, because they're still supported. All those machines out there that run like ATMs and point-of-sale machines that run Windows XP, they were given special dispensation for a couple of years longer. So there is a hack out there that you can change your XP machine to make it think it's a embedded XP and have updates continue.
We've talked about that here, Spence, and if you're industrious and really want to do it, go for it. But there are people other than Microsoft saying that there is a risk associated with that because the embedded systems are not identical to the operating system.
I realized this was just someone coming up with it.
Yeah, and that there is, because I did it for the fun of it. And once I did it and did a Windows update, no updates showed up. And in fact, they haven't shown up since then.
Yeah, but you were able to buy stuff with your computer now, right? Now it was a point-of-sale machine.
Yeah, right. And now every time I come in and hit a button on the keypad, I hear this cash register ring.
And he opened a restaurant because of it.
Yeah.
That's right. You had a menu shop pop up on your screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's not without risk. And again, this goes back, you may not have heard me say it, but it goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. Every day is a day closer to getting rid of XP. It's something that should be given consideration because the further we get away from the time that support for it stopped, then certainly there are more and more vulnerabilities. Now, there's still more XP computers out there than there are Apple computers. I mean, there are a lot of XP computers out there, and the target is still big enough for hackers and for malware and virus writers to go after the XP machines. As time goes on, as they become more and more vulnerable, the vulnerabilities are probably circulated and published in the circles that these people frequent. So I do think that as time goes on, I think it is prudent to get the heck away from XP. I don't think, I'm just too lazy. That will become less and less of an excuse as time goes on. But for right now,
I think the biggest problem is just ignorance, because I walk into somebody's house and I see XP on the computer, and so you do realize that support went away, and you go, what? They don't know.
Well,
So
let me
they're not
challenge you
aware
on
of it.
that, though, okay? Back about, 4 or 5 years ago, I probably sold, I had a really good source. In fact, I sold you one. I had a really good source for some nice Lenovo commercial grade computers.
Yes.
All of them had XP on them. I was buying them dirt cheap and selling them for what I had in them. And I probably sold 100 of them. A lot of the people who bought these computers bought them as second machines or as machines that aren't used that often. And if these machines will not, I don't think, will not upgrade to Windows 7. They're Pentium 4s. They would be dog slow. The motherboards are probably limited to 4 gigabytes of memory, if not less. These machines are not good candidates to upgrade to Windows 7 or better. So these people aren't upgrading because to upgrade means to get rid of the computer.
Yep. Yeah, I used that one you sold me for a Windows Home server.
Yeah, I mean, we got our money's worth out of those things.
Hmm. But we were talking before about, or you were talking before about the uh, PC sales lagging. And the thing that I see now is that just handheld devices, just the development there is accelerating so much. The processors, just the capabilities of these handheld devices. People that I work with, we all get our schedule sent out every day. It comes out in both Excel and PDF format. Everybody uses their smartphone. Open it up. I have current Microsoft Office 2000, whatever the latest version is. They send it out as that version. My phone opens it. I didn't have to get anything special to do it. I can look at these documents on my phone. I just took video yesterday at something called Golden Days. It's a celebration they have in Fairbanks. I took video on my phone, edited it on my phone, upgraded it to Facebook from my phone.
Right.
It was so easy to do. It's like the PC development, unless you need a PC, you can do all this stuff on your phone.
But here's the question, though. What's your data plan?
What's my data plan? Oh, I do this over Wi-Fi. I'd have a 2 gig plan, and I have never exceeded it, but I just make sure I'm in a hotspot whenever I upload. I have all my applications set to use Wi-Fi only, except for things like my mail and a few other things. They're limited to Wi-Fi only. So,
and I wanted to just make it clear that I'm not against upgrading to Windows 7.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. Really.
Yes, you are.
The problem is to find the time to do it without being interrupted. And
see, I don't understand why you couldn't just throw it. You don't. It's not like you have to take a hammer to your other computer the second you want to upgrade to Windows 7.
Right.
So all you have to do is just get a Windows 7 machine and just start moving your stuff over to it. I mean, you don't have to do it all in one day, but if
it's not going to happen over one day. And the Windows 7 machine is already there, waiting for it to happen. It's
so
to
why
find
you
the time.
Stuff?
Because you just don't find the time when you work for yourself. It's
I work for myself. I do absolutely nothing all day.
It's priorities. I know, that's the thing. That's the difference.
I'm a millionaire.
It's a matter of finding the time to do it and to say, okay, now I'm not going to answer the phone.
Amnon, you sit in the Hangouts during the day. Come on.
When I sit in a Hangout, this is because I need to relax a little bit during the day. How much do I sit in the Hangout?
A lot.
Yeah.
His brain is going 24/7.
Amnon, you don't think you could take half an hour out of your workday and either start moving some software or start writing down what software you would need to start moving over? And
I need to
15 minutes a day.
I need to move everything. And is it possible? Yes, it's very possible. Is it doable? Yes, it's very doable. Is it hell to do? No, it's not. It's just going to take time.
In the butt.
Yeah. If you took one Sunday after the show, you could. If you spent a good 2 or 3 hours after the show on Sunday, I guarantee you could get most.
Mike,
of your stuff.
wouldn't you want to be Nick's age again and to think that way?
No.
I would.
No.
It doesn't take that long.
I mean, people Nick's age have it so easy they don't have a clue.
Yes. Got me.
I mean, when I was Nick's age, we didn't even have credit cards, and now you can go borrow money on a credit card and put it in the bank, and you're rich.
That's what I did.
Yeah, Jason, I'm lazy.
I've got,
you know how lazy I
in
am.
a savings account from a credit card.
Won a $100,000 credit card bill, so there you go.
I'll just use the savings money to pay on.
There you go. Just get another credit card. No, it's just a pain, and I will suggest, though, my experience has been the way I move from computers is that I've discovered, or at least for me, is that once you move your email to a new computer,
that's it.
It's amazing how quickly you stop using the old computer.
Correct.
So once you do that, once you get moved over, and one of the reasons that I have hesitated to move my email, there are two reasons. I mean, there's always a reason, Nick. It sounds like it's just a convenient excuse, but there are reasons. For example, my first i7 is a 3600, not even a K. Is that right? 3600?
Yeah, but the K doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't, and it's good, and I put an SSD in it, and then, I mean, it's perfect. It does everything I want it to do. But that SSD in this particular computer is only 120 gig. That's the first one I bought. So I can't move my email over there because, I mean, my files are very, very large. So what I have to do is now I have to configure the secondary hard drive and all, and that's fine. It's not a problem. But in the meantime, I bought another i7 that's a 3770, and it has regular hard drives in it. I've probably got 2 terabytes worth of data space in it. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've made up my mind, is I'm going to move my email over to the new 3770, which I really wanted to save for a video computer because of its horsepower, but the 3600, whatever the number is, it'll do fine. Now, why haven't I already done that? Because when I bought these computers, the Office software that I had access to at a cheap price was Office 2010. I knew that my company was going to be upgrading to Office 2013 shortly, and when they do, then I can get the Office, home user package for $15 or $10 or whatever it is. So that beats going out and paying $200 or $150, whatever the price is. That has now happened. Now I can install Office 2013, which I detest, on my newer i7 computer. I can move all my email over, and eventually this XP machine fades into oblivion.
There you go. See, you have a plan to do it.
Well, but there's always something that gets in the way because I don't want to have to do it twice. I detest update. I'm still using Office 2003. It does everything I need for it to do.
That is very common. I know a lot of people that are still using Office 2003.
It does everything I want it to do.
Exactly.
Moving over to Office 2013 is going to do nothing but make me have to put on my glasses to see the difference in the colors, that they've lowered the contrast on it. Office 2013 is a disaster. It's an abortion.
So why aren't you using Google Drive?
I do. Those articles that I wrote, where did you see them?
On Google Drive. You actually wrote those in there.
I did.
How great is that, right? You don't have to email it to somebody. You can just upload the link and it's there.
I found something about Google Drive I don't like. And if you know of a workaround, I would very much like to know about it.
Okay.
In Office, any of the Office programs, you have a function called Paste Special. It allows you to paste copied text into the document without the formatting.
Or to choose the formatting.
Yeah, well, the newer ones allow you to choose it. The old ones, you can paste either the same. When you hit paste, if you've copied from a web page, it actually pastes HTML in it. If you paste special with no formatting, then it just puts the ASCII text in there, and it adopts the background formatting of whatever you paste it into.
Correct.
Excel lets you, if you use Paste Special, lets you apply formulas, formats. It's really handy.
Right, so I can't find a Paste Special in Google Docs.
So you know what the workaround for that is?
Yes, I paste it into Notepad, and then copy it out of Notepad and paste it into Google.
Much easier. Paste it into the nav bar of your browser. That's how I do all of my formatting. Paste it into the nav bar, it loses all of its formatting. Control A, Control C, and it's back.
Right, but one of these cut and paste was 1,600 words.
It's fine. Paste in your browser. What?
Into the nav bar?
Yeah, and you don't highlight it. You just do Control A, and it copies all of it.
I understand, but if you're talking about in the URL nav bar up at the top.
Yes, that is how I do all of my formatting.
That's got to be limited to at least 256 characters.
Nope. I'm gonna go to Lorem Ipsum, and I'm gonna copy the whole thing. Oh, Andrew.
Morning, Andrew.
Andrew asked why you aren't using WordPerfect 4.
Because I don't want to.
I'm not using that.
I never used WordPerfect.
I did. What was it? 5.1 was the last text-based version?
How many words, Mike, did you say?
Characters.
1,600
Characters.
words.
1,600
Words? I would say characters.
I said words.
1,600 words. All right, let's copy this. 1,600 lorem ipsum words. Okay.
I just upgraded to Office 2003 about 6 months ago.
Congratulations.
I was using 97 with the, no, not 97, XP, Office XP with the compatibility pack that did all that DocX and all that, because it all depends what you do with it.
All right, I'm going to make this public so everybody can see this.
You be careful what you're making public.
Yes.
You do lorem ipsum.
Yeah, that's lorem ipsum. Let's see. How do I
And
share?
It works. I mean, 2003 works, and as far as I know, it's the one that's being used mostly out there in corporate America. And when is it supposed to lose to end support, end of life?
What?
Office 2003.
It's gone.
No, I don't. Not yet. I don't think so, because I get updates.
Well, you may be, but you look and make sure, because sometimes you get programs that install things from 2007, 2010, 2013, and it looks like their office updates. But if it's not gone, it's on the verge of being gone.
Yeah, I
Right,
know
so
it's on the verge, but I don't know when.
Okay, so if you look at that link I just posted in chat, that is a 1,600 word lorem ipsum. Okay?
Yep.
Are you looking at it?
Hit enter.
I'm going to copy it into my nav bar. I'm going to Control-A, Control-C, throw it back in there. There you go. There's your 1,600 words. No formatting.
File unavailable.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's how. That's how. Because for example, for On the Radar, I use Evernote for the show notes, and Evernote does some weird formatting with like italics and stuff. So when I copy stuff from Evernote, I throw it in the nav bar and then throw it back into WordPress, and I lose all the formatting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine. I actually have a program that I use on the XP machine. I haven't moved it to the Windows 7 machines. Again, I don't know that it will work, but it's a program called Email Stripper. It is a great little utility. I keep it actually, unlike other things, in my quick launch bar. And when you open it, it is 100% ASCII text-based. It does not recognize any formatting. But what it's designed to do is you sometimes will receive an email that has about 10 million carets in it, where they've done quoting and inserts and all that crap. And it goes through and removes all that and reformats the document, takes out the white space. The only thing I hate about it is it puts a little footer on it. But what I also found is that you start it, hit the paste button, it throws whatever's on the clipboard into the window. If you immediately hit copy, then it'll copy it right back out without the other stuff if you don't do the cleanup. But if you do the cleanup, then you have to take out that little tagline in it. It's called Email Stripper. It's a neat little program. I've used it 1,000 times, 10,000 times.
Hey, Mike,
Nice.
can I ask a microphone question or audio question?
Nick's the microphone expert, but go ahead.
I am the motor coaches that we drive use REI audio systems, which are they're pretty good. Some of the older coaches are a little flaky, but they use a 4-pin XLR, and they use two pins are the mic, 2 pins are the switch
Correct.
that they use. And I bought a little mic, I bought a little headset. The ones that they use are Shure headsets, and actually after a while your head just starts to hurt. So I wound up buying a little wireframe headset, really cool, but it's a micro 4-pin XLR. And you aware of any place? I've been searching online for an adapter, a micro 4-pin to regular 4-pin XLR. Do you have a good site for adapters?
Well, it depends on how much you want to pay for one. There's a company called MarkerTech, MarkerTek.com.
MarkerTech, okay.
And what I would do is call them and tell them what you want. There may not be such a thing. If there is one, they would know about it. if there isn't one, they'll make you an adapter cable. It might not be cheap, but they'll do it, and they don't burn you on it. But I mean, if they're going to pay somebody $30 an hour to stop and to wire it up and to make it, pack it, and ship it.
The issue that they have with these coaches is that there's a handheld mic, and there's also the headset that the driver wears, and some of them don't have mic switches built into the dash. The older coaches, you have to plug it in to activate it and then unplug it while you're driving. So it's just not handy. That's to hand off. If I want to hand off the mic to somebody else to use, I have to do that. One of them actually has an on-off switch built into the connector. That's the only one I've ever seen. I got to actually look at to see who makes that. But I think I might just buy a connector and just replace the one that's on here.
I mean, that's probably your best bet, but let me also suggest that before you do that, do your homework and figure it out, because you could have, for example, 48 volts voltage on the pin. You may have no voltage on the pin coming out of the amplifier input on the bus. Your headset, if it's an electric condenser capsule, is going to require 5 volts bias. If, let's say that yours has 15, you hook it to 5, toast. And also the pin arrangement is not necessarily standard. You would have to have the wiring diagram for the input connector on the bus as well as the wiring diagram for the headset.
I want to bring home a headset because I have a spare headset, so I was just going to take a look and see how it was wired. But the problem is I don't have any tools. I don't have a soldering iron, I don't have all that stuff. So
I've recommended this to people in the past, and sometimes it works and often it doesn't. But what you need to do is to kind of look around and find out who some of the radio engineers are in the area, the broadcast radio station engineers. These are some of the sharpest, most creative engineering people you can get to. And because they're being worked to death for free by the radio station, sometimes they'll help you for free, and sometimes they'll do it for you at a reasonable price. So they have all the tools and the equipment and the expertise. They do this stuff day in, day out. A second alternative is to find somebody who is very technically adept and has a recording studio in his or her home. And like if they've built their own studio, built their own equipment sort of thing. These people are around. They don't really advertise it a lot because they would be worried to death, but there are people within a few miles of you who could nail exactly what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I'll have to stop by. I met the guy who runs the local guitar shop.
There you go.
Yeah, so he's a good guy to talk to.
And if he doesn't do it, he may know someone, or probably ask someone who fixes the tube-type guitar amps.
Yep.
If you can repair a tube-type guitar amplifier, there's very little you could not wire in an audio system.
Mm. So I can't believe I only have 2 months to go.
When are you actually leaving?
September 24th.
Oh, my father's.
The season ends a few days before that. That's the day we could both get on the same flight from home. But I tell you, I love the job. It's the other stuff that goes along with the job that's always a problem.
Isn't that always the case?
Yeah. You have to muck it up with requirements and rules and things.
You don't actually have any government intervention in what you do you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have the DOT. We're actually undergoing an audit soon. So we have to have our logbooks and all of the inspection reports, and all that stuff has to be up to date.
Yeah. So the question is, are you ever going to do it again?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure I'll do it here, but I'm going to do it again. I'm already looking into opportunities on the East Coast, something I can do from home. I have a friend who knows somebody that runs a coach line out of the Hudson Valley that does the East Coast. That looks for once.
I'm in the Hudson Valley.
Yep. So yeah, he's in Walden.
And he's a tourism expert.
Oh, what?
Tourism expert.
Oh yes. I give tours all the time.
So, and there are other places I know of that I've been collecting information over the years, like working the summer in Yellowstone or working the summer in one of the national parks. Depends on what I want to do, but if who knows? I mean, I may have to get a real job eventually. Depends on the financial situation.
Are there any companies in Raleigh that you could work with?
Oh yeah. And in fact, I have to start that research when I get home. But there are some business opportunities that my son and I are discussing.
Buy a bus.
Yeah, we're looking at doing some type of a local tour.
Yeah, buy a bus, start your own company.
Yeah.
Got a website designed.
Yeah, Nick knows somebody who can design a website for you.
Yeah. But we see there's some interesting opportunities there that we're going to discuss. I've always had an idea. I'd love to take people out on a motorcycle tour, but most people, like if you wanted to go to the Blue Ridge Mountains, you don't want to drive your motorcycle there necessarily.
No.
You could come up with a way of trailing everybody's bike out there, and then have like a 4-day tour where you take them one direction one day, and you have accommodations and all that all built in. People would, I think people would do it. It depends on how expensive it would be.
So back to Windows. I don't know that I'm probably going to wait and see what happens with Microsoft before I do this, because they're reportedly planning a major staff reduction.
They already did.
Yeah, how many? 18,000?
18,000. That's the biggest one in their history.
Who did that?
Microsoft.
What were these 18,000 people doing?
Well, they said that the reduction in areas such as Nokia and divisions of Microsoft that overlap with that business,
So
as well as
Hello.
As well
there was
as
a bunch of corporate speak that came out about this, about why they were doing it. I've read some analysis of this, and it's across every division. They say that the problem they have is this is now that Ballmer is gone, the new guys come in and is reorganizing development because there were so many different silos that didn't talk to each other. This is just a common corporate thing that happens in all big companies. And the divisions don't talk to each other, and they develop products and they don't test it right, and they don't do the same. They don't use the same market analysis, and it'll be nice if they can figure it out, but I don't think they can. They're just too big.
So another division that they closed was the Xbox Entertainment Studios, who do all of the cartoon series and animations for like the Xbox or Microsoft Shorts, and they totally closed down that studio.
wow.
And the Wall Street reaction was actually positive because they've been thinking that Microsoft needed to do this for years, but they didn't do it because Ballmer was still around.
Well, I have bad news for anyone investing in Lowe's home improvement stores.
Why?
Well, ever since I have postponed my woodworking, their sales around here have dropped dramatically. I was in there every day before. I haven't been in there in 2 months. That's a joke.
Hit the rim shot, Mike.
Nah, that's all right.
Okay.
I did just get an email from Skype that says your desktop version of Skype is being retired.
Yep.
We are now retiring older versions of Skype, and it appears that you're currently using one of these. To continue signing into Skype on your desktop, you'll need to download to the latest version. Download to the latest version. Boy, that's intelligent. The new version comes with improved performance and the latest features and security updates, so you'll get the best possible Skype experience.
Right.
Microsoft should do that and send it to all the Windows XP people. Say, hey, if you want to continue using your desktop, upgrade.
But my question is, how do they know what version I'm still using? I haven't logged in with that account in a year.
But because they probably look at the. So if they look at the account name, they probably look at the last client that it was logged in with, and if it sees whatever Skype 5 point whatever it was logged in with, then that's what they.
I thought they were retiring anything below 6.
I believe that is true.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's below 6. The question is whether it's below 6 point something.
No, I believe it's just below 6. I think 6.0 is.
And I understand that. I mean, I understand them not being able to maintain compatibility all the way back to the beginning of time, and I understand that it creates a problem for Andrew because there are certain hacks and things that he can do with older versions
Right.
that are not possible in newer versions. But Nick, as I recall, he started whining about the forced update, and once he got it updated, it still worked.
Yeah, well, see, the problem is that the video software companies like Blackmagic, AverMedia, Telestream, they don't want to work with Skype. So this is primarily a Telestream problem. You tell Telestream, hey, who's the manufacturer of Wirecast, hey, there's a problem with Skype, with this thing, and they're just like, oh, well, it's a Skype problem. We're not going to fix it. So that's the big problem. It's not. It's not that Skype doesn't work. It's that these manufacturers aren't interested in keeping updated with
Well,
Skype.
I mean, it's the same story was with the VidBlaster.
Oh, with all of them, they don't.
It was,
They don't want to work
it's a
with Skype.
Skype problem. We can't fix it.
Yeah, it's a Skype issue. Like, no, it's not a Skype issue. Skype is allowed to change what they want, and if 95% of the people that are using your software are using Skype, then you should be fixing it so that Skype works with your software.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying until somebody explained it and made a lot of sense. If Telestream now knows that Skype is not working right, that they did something, they can go and make it work with it. But in a week or 2 or 3, Skype is going to fix that problem because they used to do that before. I mean, VidBlaster.
Oh, I'm not talking about bugs. I'm talking about totally non-compatible, not compatible at all.
Well, I mean, look at us. Why are we using Hangouts?
Because you have. Well, we're using it because you didn't switch the camera and mic.
Because because we had problems with Skype, and I had to go back to an older one, to the 6.1 something, and it worked 99% of the time.
No, not with the 6.1. Well, there was still a crap ton of problems with that.
Well, I know, but the 6.5 or 6, whatever, will not do. Will hang. Will not allow you to connect or whatever. Spencer, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say that Skype and Microsoft in general have a strategy of changing things just to keep their competitors on their toes. So now you see it happening. You see it happening in Skype, the way they would do to make changes to their operating system so that they had an advantage over their competitors.
You know what, Spence? I would agree with you, but who is the competition for Skype?
I'm not saying that this is the logical thing to do.
Oh.
This is a mentality that Microsoft has. That maybe now it's being infiltrated into the Skype management.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they would be. There's no competition for Skype.
What?
They don't-
No. Well, maybe not competition. Maybe not competition. Maybe that's the wrong word. But why did they stop?
Substitute.
Why did they stop all these the API, the hooks that other programs could use Skype for their own thing? They did that months ago.
Yeah, I don't recall why that is, and they probably have a good reason because, well, I don't know. But I'll tell you what I did do. Yesterday we were talking about article. Some interesting things happened over the weekend. I wrote an article for a major national trade magazine for radio broadcasters, and got really good response on it. It was kind of humbling to be able to, after having been out of the business since 1984, to be able to write something that was interesting to people still in the business. And the publisher came back to me and said he wanted me to write another article. In fact, he wanted to know if I wanted to be a regular contributor. Well, I thought about it because that's kind of a compliment to have someone say that, and I came up with an idea for the article, which I finished yesterday, that was how radio stations can do free remote broadcast. And what that means is that if you, particularly small market radio stations where they don't have any money, they would go out and do the local high school football game. And in the old days, they used to do it on telephone line. You'd listen to a football game, God forbid, over the radio, and it sounded like Blog Talk Radio. Over time, there were alternatives available, such as what's called RPU, or remote pickup, which is actually a small FM transmitter, about a 30-watt FM transmitter with a Yagi antenna that you would send back to the radio station, and it really had extraordinarily good quality. It was probably 10, 12 kilohertz audio bandwidth. You could do really well with it. What happens if the football game is in another state? The Marty doesn't reach back that far. Now what do? You're back to the telephone line, as long as, within those days, very expensive phone calls. Well, things are different now, in that stations still want to do high-quality remote broadcasts, but they want to be able to do it over the Internet. Okay, the Internet is not universally good. What happens if you have bad Internet? How do you work it? Well, keep in mind that most radio stations using Skype are violating Skype's terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
Skype actually has what they call broadcast terms of service. They're special terms of service. And what they say is that if you're going to use Skype for commercial broadcasting, that you have to, if the call or the program is 15 minutes or less, you have to announce at the beginning, this program is brought to you over Skype. And at the end of the program, this program has been brought to you over Skype. That's required, or you're violating their terms of service. If the program is over 15 minutes, you have to announce it at the beginning, once every 15 minutes, and again at the end. When's the last time you heard anybody do that? You have not heard anyone do that. They don't do it. Very few people, if any, are complying with the terms of service. Now, I think it's onerous. I don't think that if you're paying for a Skype premium account and putting money in Microsoft's pocket, I don't think they ought to be able to tell you what the content of that program is. But it's their service. They can do whatever they want to with it. Having said that, the purpose of the article was to discuss alternatives. And as far as I am concerned, there are two viable alternatives for remotes by radio stations for free. What's interesting about one of them is that they are also now getting into video. And that service is called Source Connect Now. I learned about it on Vance Willis's show. I'd never heard of it. Did some research. Nick and I did some testing. And the quality was, better. I can agree or disagree, Nick. It was not only better than Skype, but it was also in stereo.
Audio
Correct.
and video?
No video.
Oh,
Just audio.
okay.
It was better than Skype with no restrictions. So my first recommendation, not first, but one of my two recommendations, as I said, you can use Skype, give the devil its due. It's a great program. It works great, but make sure you comply with their licensing requirements. The third recommendation was Source Connect. What's interesting is that I floated this article by the guys at Source Connect, and they even edited it yesterday to take out a few little things that I did not have exactly right, which was not a big deal, but it was correct when I finished it. The third thing, or my second recommendation, is a program or is a technology called SIP, or Session Initiation Protocol, which, as we've talked about here before, is very abundant in the PBX commercial business enterprise telephone system. Most telephone lines now, I guess most, are not copper lines running from the central office to the company PBX. It's over the internet, and they are SIP trunks. If you go order a VoIP line, if you order a telephone line from the Packet 8s, the Vonages, those are actually SIP lines. And so, but there's also a different way of accessing SIP network through what are called clients, such as Bria, such as X-Lite, and my favorite, which is called Blink. And Blink allows you to connect two computers together, point to point, using, in the old days, it sounded much like a very high-quality telephone call, but it was still better than a telephone, but not as good as Skype. Well, over the past few months, several of the SIP providers and SIP hosts have implemented the Opus codec, which is supposedly better than the Silk V3 codec that Skype is using, which is an excellent audio codec. So anyway, Blink has implemented it, so now you can do a Blink call point-to-point using 48 kilohertz SIP, Blink, Opus codec. The quality is excellent. In my opinion, the quality is as good as Skype in most cases, not all, but in most cases. And I didn't say this in the article, but it's absolutely good enough for a radio station because the quality is better than the radio signal. So it is now a viable replacement for Skype as far as remote broadcasts are concerned. But I mentioned that to mention this, that the SIP providers are also getting head-on into video. In my opinion, you can do it now, but in my opinion, within a year, so long as you don't mind doing one computer per connection, like Andrew does with Skype and like Leo Laporte does with Skype, as long as you don't mind doing one computer per guest, that the SIP alternative is going to be extremely viable. There is great movement towards HD video point-to-point like Skype mastered a long time ago.
Mike, a real quick question, and don't get too much into it. How much more bandwidth does it use?
I don't know. I don't think it's significantly different from what Skype is doing.
Okay.
But that's a great question, because unlike Skype, and this was part of the article, unlike Skype, if you've got a flaky connection or you don't have the bandwidth, with SIP, you can select what bandwidth you want to use.
Okay. So, but you don't know if Opus is using a bunch more bandwidth than the Silk.
Well, let's say it this way. Skype is moving to Opus.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
All it tells me is that they figured that everybody's got 5 megabits.
No, it tells me that it provides a more ubiquitous solution, or they would not implement it across the board.
Yeah.
No company, including Skype, wants to release a product that's going to cause more customer support issues.
Yeah, if they standardize on a common codec, it's much easier. You don't have to do any transcoding, and that's what really chews up bandwidth and chews up cycles in wherever the central server is. Skype, if it's a one-to-one conversation, it's direct between the two endpoints. It's when you create a conference call that you have to do all this transcoding between different codecs coming in from different users. So if it's all standardized, it's much simpler.
Well,
here's Donovan knows the answer to these things. I'm going to read some of the things he's posted because, again, I clearly don't know the nuts and bolts of these things. But he says that he figures the reason why, just going back a little bit, why removing the Skype API is because they're launching Skype broadcast version sometime in the future. With regard to SIP, he said SIP handles the initial handshake and negotiation for VoIP lines. The audio is RTP. And Jason was asking whether Opus is open or proprietary, and it is open. It's open source, which is one of the benefits.
Jason asked it as a result of that answer that Donovan gave here. He says the Opus codec uses less bandwidth, but gives better quality at the same time. So that's an answer to my question.
Well, yes and no. That's what is advertised.
Oh.
But it may ultimately turn out to be true, but I actually did some testing before it was released with the guy who wrote Blink. He and I have kind of been in contact over the last year. He sent me some charts of some actual testing, some real-world testing done before he decided to rewrite Blink to use the Opus codec. He sent, and I think I sent these to Nick too, may have circulated them through the group. They were really interesting. in that at certain bandwidth levels, there's really no difference between MP3 and Opus. There are some levels at which there's really very little to no difference between the codecs. At a certain point, and I forget what that point is, Donovan, but at a certain point, these curves start diverging, and the benefit of Opus it becomes apparent at certain bandwidth levels. Regex is saying Opus, it appears that Opus can use up to 128K. Well, Regex, according to what I was told yesterday by the developer of Source Connect Now, the Opus codec, on the commercial version of Source Connect Now, their Opus codec is set up to allow 512K stereo.
So that's 256 per channel.
Well, that's not quite right.
That I know, but I mean, to make it simple.
Well, it's not, but it's not accurate.
Right.
Because it's like MP3. 64K mono is not the same as 128K stereo.
Right.
But I won't get into that. But anyway, so Opus, the codec can be opened up way on up there. I cannot imagine why anyone would do 512K over the internet, even in a recording studio. I mean, anything above 192K gets silly. Certainly anything above 320, you'd have to. There's something wrong if you think you can hear the difference. I just don't believe it, but maybe you can. What do I know? But so anyway, it remains to be seen whether it will really be a bandwidth saver, what benefits it's going to provide. But it's the way things are going. It's good for us. We like it. It works, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, but Mike, we were talking about Skype going Opus almost 2 years ago.
I could care less what the Skype does. I mean, quite candidly, my hat goes off to Skype. They revolutionized the IP voice and I mean audio and video industry as far as I am concerned. Give the devil its due, but you know what? With these policies they're coming up with and these dictates taking away the APIs, maybe they're just getting too big for their britches.
Maybe. I mean, there are competitors, right, Nick?
Finally.
Nick, who's a competitor now to Skype?
I don't think there's a direct competitor that does exactly what Skype does.
Well, not exactly, but accomplishes what Skype does.
Well, there's a million things that accomplish it, but there's nothing that's user friendly. SIP is a great solution, but
there is Zoom.us.
Yeah, that Zoom.us is nothing like Skype, Amnon.
It's a conference. It's not a point-to-point communication system.
Right, but I mean, people can use it to talk with a friend. Remember, most of the world,
so Uvu, MSN chat, AOL chat. I mean,
Nick, most of the world is using Skype between granddad and his son, or
so why do they need? They don't need anything else for what you're saying. Then there's no reason for them to move to anything.
I understand. I didn't say that there is a reason to move. I was talking just about other solutions. If you don't want to use Skype, I mean, I could use
Google Hangouts.
Well, you see, that's it. Correct. Google Hangouts, Zoom.us. What's the other one that I in? Appear.
Appear.in.
But none of those are as user-friendly as Skype.
I did not say they are. But if you don't like a Ford, you go and you buy a Chevy, and maybe it will not be as user-friendly to you. The point is that you can get something else if you don't want to use, or if you don't like a certain thing, or if Skype is not compatible with the computer that you're using. Try something else. It may be. That's the point, that there are others, and if it gets to the point where Skype is, Spencer, you were going to say something?
I was going to say it'd be interesting to see the financials, if they break out the financials for Skype, what they were doing before they were acquired by Microsoft and how much different it is now. Because you can bet that they're going to want to recover their investment by embedding this stuff and getting more people to pay for the service, because providing it.
Actually, they are less. They're making less now because they made group video free.
But is that correct, though, Amnon? Did they pick up more customers somewhere along the way on other paid services by making group video for free? I mean, you and I were paying Skype over $100 or probably $100 per year before they made group video free.
Right.
And now it's dropped. So definitely, as far as you and I are concerned, we're paying them less. But have they made the service attractive at a commercial level to more people so that they're in fact making more money? I don't know.
One thing that Skype was doing before they were acquired by Microsoft was that they were allowing companies like Avaya use their trunks and build support for Skype native trunks into PBXs, which was this is just another way to get around the carrier offered services. And this was a big deal because now you could a company that could not afford to buy services from, say they want to have a branch in Europe and they want calls that they make from the US to be initiated to other people in Europe over this trunk. Before, they may not have been able to afford that, but now if they signed up for this Skype business trunk, they could use Skype to do that to save a ton of money. And that fell apart when Microsoft bought them. That was a big thing and the whole initiative got shut down as soon as Microsoft bought Skype.
Well, here's my point about it, and I know that we've got some Microsoft haters here. I'm not a Microsoft hater. I'm not an Apple hater. But on a case-by-case, product-by-product basis, you give credit where it's due, and you launch the criticism where it's indicated. But, I mean, there's an old saying that's very valid that says that pioneers take the arrows. And if Skype was anything, it was pioneering software. I mean, it had been out, I guess, at least 2 to 3 years before I realized how high the quality was for a point-to-point call. I'd never thought about it. I always thought about it as a telephone service. I actually stumbled onto it through a service called LegalTalkNetwork.com. I don't know if I've told this whole story. I'll tell the short version, but I stumbled onto it, and the guy was doing internet shows, and his quality was extraordinarily high. And I contacted him and I said, "How are you doing this?" Well, he gave me his whole setup, and he was using a Mackie mixer that had the FireWire interface, and on and on and on. And he says he's doing it over Skype. I said, "You can't be serious." He said, "Yes." He said, "The calls we call on Skype." So then I started doing some testing. Amnon, this is when you were still on the radio. And I did some testing point to point, and I mean, it just blew me out of the water, because what I finally did was configured broadcast quality equipment to the computer and did the test with a guy in the broadcasting business who also had the same sort of equipment. And I mean, it just was so stunning. It just knocked me out of a chair. I had no idea that the quality was so high. That's when, Spencer, you started on the Ustream thing after that. One thing led to the next. That's where we all got together on all of this internet broadcasting business. That being said, Skype, I mean, I think they're in many ways like all big companies in that they're independent. They're going to do what they darn well please. If you've got an alternative, fine. If you don't, they couldn't care less. And I think they're at the point that they couldn't care less. So the good news is that we are now finally getting to the point, at least for some setups, there is an alternative to Skype. I think the radio industry now, the commercial broadcast terrestrial radio industry, is at the point now where they can completely do away with Skype and have an equivalent or even better product. One of the things that I did not mention in the article is another service that, Nick, I don't know if you and I played with it. I know I did with a broadcaster up in Winston-Salem, called Fideliphone, Fideliphone, Fideliphone. It is a point-to-point, high-quality audio wide bandwidth service that requires, unfortunately, you have to do port forwarding. It does not have all of the navigation protocols built in that allow you to work behind firewalls and things, meaning it's a pain in the butt. Moreover, I'm not so sure that it's still supported. But it was an extraordinary service and readily available.
I remember you talking about it.
It was excellent. What is the other one? We never tested the one called. You and I, Amnon, tried to test Bria with HD, but your computer was not set up for HD. Nick and I then tested it, and I don't recall, but it didn't go well.
We could never get it to go to the wide band or whatever.
Yeah, it turned out to be on your end, but then actually when your trial version timed out, I bought it and sent it to Nick. Nick and I did some testing, and it didn't cut it. There was something there. That was a SIP to SIP connection. I believe what turned out is that in those days, most of the SIP providers, the SIP companies, were not doing what I've heard referred to as codec agnostic connections, and that is that they were limiting the bandwidth through their server, whereas now there are some like SIP2SIP.info and GetOnSIP.com that will pass through whatever you send through them. We didn't do any testing subsequent to that. But if they actually take off those governors and allow you to connect at whatever speed you choose to connect, again, there's an alternative solution there. I mean, Andrew will be able to do GFQ and not use Skype. He'll be able to use an alternate source. Vance and Mark Johnson have started using an alternate source. I never remember what it is. Nick knows what it is, but he stepped away. But I believe that they're dealing with a lot of latency, a lot of lag between the two signals. The quality is apparently very good, but it doesn't have quite everything that Skype has. So Skype gets its dues, but its days, unless they step up the game, they're kind of going to do like an iPhone and they're going to fall into the crowd instead of leading the way. See you, Jason.
Have a good day.
Take care. Brush your hair.
Anyway.
Another thing I was going to tell you here.
You what?
There's one other thing I was going to tell you here. As I was saying, some things happened this weekend. I wrote this article for this National Trade magazine, it's a very big one. It goes to every radio station in the country. This last article I wrote was a royal pain. I mean, it took me 4 times as long to write it as any other article I've written recently. I was so tired when I wrote it, I wrote another article for the IAIB. I wrote it in 15 minutes. But anyway, I submitted it to the guy. He did not know what the topic was going to be. He trusted that I came up with a good topic. So I took a shot at it. And decided, I had not told him, but I decided this was the last article I was writing for a while because I was really tired of it. I sent him the article just to review. I said, don't use this one. I'm not done with it. It's just a preview. He writes back, here is the first paragraph of his email. Now, Amnon, you tell me what this does to your decision not to do it anymore. Mike, this is good stuff. Thanks for working on this. This definitely sets us apart from other publications.
I don't know.
Is there any better compliment that a publisher could say to a writer?
No, I mean, it's great. What do you mean? What in here makes you not wanting to do it?
I know. I'm saying that I made up my mind not to do it, and then he makes a statement. This definitely sets us apart from other publications.
This actually re-energizes you.
I know, it screws up your decision, right?
Yeah, but that's nice.
That's as far as I'm concerned, the consummate compliment that a national magazine can give to a writer. This sets us apart from other publications. I guess he needs to get out more.
No, it's a good article, and it's
not so much that. It's just that I've been out of the business so long that I do have the technical capability. I mean, Gary and I have talked offline. Gary's a brilliant broadcast engineer. I'm a good broadcast engineer. So I'm probably writing from a perspective other than the guys who are caught up in it writing the same stuff over and over again. So for that perspective, I get it's a different perspective, but now I'm out of topics.
Gary's asking you something.
I can't keep up with all these windows open.
Was it Paul McLean?
No.
I have something to talk about. Are we done with...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about us. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I didn't know if you were done with your.
We're done. Go ahead. We were just waiting on you to screw up. Come back.
Well, actually, this will feed into the radio thing, and I
Yes, go ahead. We're excited.
I brought this up in my show on Thursday. But OnStar, the how would you classify OnStar? What kind of service are they?
It's a satellite.
Like well, no, yeah, they're in your car if you have a problem.
Yeah, they're an emergency service for your car.
Yeah, and they're mostly partnered. I think, pretty sure they're partnered with Chevrolet. I think that's the only ones they're partnered with. And they are launching in-car 4G LTE on the 2015 fleet of Chevy sedans. And I believe that this could be the real first attempt to try to phase out traditional radio and get web radio or web music streaming into a vehicle.
There are other cars that offer Pandora already. They've got 3G, 4G connections in cars that offer Wi-Fi in the car.
Yeah, see, the big problem with those is I know the Ford, some of the Ford cars have that built in, but you have to have the 3G or 4G dongle and plug it into the car. Which
I would prefer, because I don't want to be locked into OnStar's service, because they're already expensive.
I'm totally on the opposite side of that. I'd rather just have it built into the car and not have to worry about having to keep up to date with the 3G or 4G dongle and taking it out of the car and into somewhere else or something and then leaving it in there. I think that this could be. I want it just built into the car. I don't want to have to go to AT&T and say, all right, I need 20 gigs of data a month. If OnStar can build this into the car, and yes, I know it's expensive. OnStar is expensive as a service itself. But if this works and is sustainable, and wherever this was tested, they were getting about 17 megabits down and almost 5 up. So
it's interesting because you think it's expensive, but you look at what we pay now. If you add up our telecommunication bill between cable and mobile devices, we're already paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it might not be that big a deal. When I had OnStar in my Impala when it was new, and they gave the first year was free, and after that they started to charge. It was almost $20 a month just for OnStar service. You had to buy separate minutes to use the phone. Plus, I dumped it because it just wasn't worth it. The only thing I thought that was of value was if you had an accident, they would actually know where you were and could call emergency services for you. But the one thing they were doing already was every month I get an email saying, here's the maintenance summary for your car, because the car calls in to GM and actually downloads, well, here's how long it's been since you had an oil change, this is the average temperature. They pull all the sensor information and send it back across the OnStar link. So it is valuable, definitely. But it's interesting, I think you're going to see a whole series of automation competition with different versions. Microsoft is going to get into it big time, or try to, but Apple just announced that they're going to offer iOS for cars.
I was just getting ready to say, it's exactly what I was getting ready to say. All of this business about having installed receivers, transceivers, all this crap in cars, I don't think it's going to happen in a big way, because I think it's going to all be built into the phone.
See, that's what I don't want. I don't want to have to use my phone to switch to stream the radio station. I want it built into the dashboard of the car.
What if it were built? This is a big what if. What if it were built into your phone? It could be done in the background without burning up your battery as badly as it does now, and without interfering with your use of the phone. What if it could multitask like a computer, where you minimize the Spotify playing in the background and go about doing your other things? You don't realize it's even running in the background. If your phone could do that, would it bother you?
It's already available through sync offers.
Yeah,
and you can use Bluetooth connection to connect your phone to the car, and you can play Pandora.
I'm not necessarily interested in the playing of the services. I am more interested in having the 4G built into the car, because that is the problem. If you have a phone, any car is a smart car. All you do is plug in an auxiliary cable or hook up a Bluetooth adapter. But I want it built into the car so that if I don't have my phone with me, or if I don't want to use my phone for it, I can just touch the little dashboard, the thing that's in the dashboard, click on Winamp, have all of the Shoutcast stations pop up, tap on one, and I'm streaming a Shoutcast station without having to have my phone either connected via the auxiliary cable or have it connected via Bluetooth. I want to cut my phone out from the whole
Well, it's not just this. I mean, think about that OnStar. It would be like Spence was saying. It would be really nice. Hey, Mike, you have 4 gallons of gas left in the car. Your next exit to get gas is coming up in 1 mile. You better go out there because you are not going to make it to the next one.
Okay.
Hey, the only way that this can happen is if it's part of the car and it looks at the actual. What? No.
Again, we're waving magic wands here, talking about at some point. If there is a standardized Bluetooth interface, sensors built into the car, so it doesn't matter what brand of car you get into, even if you get a rental car,
Yeah.
your phone has Bluetooth empowered. It has a standard automotive interface.
It will go to a program. Okay, I see what you mean.
It
Yeah.
goes to a program. And because I hear what Nick is saying, and I like it, but I also question whether Nick's preference is not unlike the preference for desktop versus laptop computers. I hate laptop computers, but they're very valuable and useful at the right time. I'm a desktop computer kind of guy. I will be very disappointed when I can no longer buy a desktop computer. I hope I don't live that long.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out, because you have the one model where if you could establish a standard, like Nick was saying, you go to rent a car, you log into the car, and your whole personality gets downloaded to the car.
Bingo.
That would be awesome. But I don't think there would be, I think there's going to be too much competition out there from different vendors, each trying to do this, that maybe the portable device that logs into the car is better, because you can carry with you your function, and then as long as there's some type of standard interface in the car, it doesn't have to be tied to a specific manufacturer.
Right. Well,
I'm waiting for AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint to associate themselves with a certain brand of car, and for $5 or $10 a month, however much they decide, you don't get to use the Wi-Fi functionality. It doesn't broadcast Wi-Fi to your car, but it's unlimited audio streaming from that console that's in your car. $5 or $10 a month, stream as much as you want, no limit. It's similar to what you have with cable TV. You don't get charged for your digital cable box, how much digital cable you stream, something like that with a car. And I think once that happens, we'll start working towards phasing out traditional radio.
Let me offer a couple of predictions. First,
Okay.
What will happen, and what do I know? What will happen is the European Union will start standardizing by government mandate or otherwise on some sort of, I don't know what the system would be called, but it would be an standardized automotive system that Volvo, Volkswagen, all these companies, when you get in, it does exactly what Spence says. It downloads, exchange, interfaces, synchronizes, whatever, your mobile device, phone, whatever it is, with the car, and you now have all of this intelligent information, including where you are and if your car wrecks and all this crap built in. Now, all of a sudden, the American companies say, uh-oh, this is a strong feature. People are going to really make that as part of their decision when to buy a foreign car versus American car. Then the American automotive manufacturers get together and either A, standardize on the same system, or B, create their own system that is theoretically as good as or better than the European system, which is dated by the time the American guys get around to it. What I'm saying is individually, you've got companies playing around with things like OnStar and other things, but at some point in time, the technology is going to drive the companies to adopt a system. That's one prediction. My second prediction is not really related, but relevant to the conversation. And that is, when I think about how quickly companies stopped using records, let me say it again. When I think back to how, and Spencer and Amnon, you can comment on this because Nick wouldn't be old enough to know it, but it actually shocked me how quickly people switched over from vinyl records to CDs. I mean, once CDs became available and in good supply, which only took about a year after they were released, the transition was really, really quick. Secondarily, whenever CDs fell out of vogue and people went to storing things on phones and iPods and MP3 players, CDs and DVDs died out extremely quickly. Case in point, look how quickly Blockbuster went out of business, out of the DVD rental business. What I'm saying is, and I'm asking your opinion, is my prediction is, whether you agree, is that once these things that we're talking about, Nick's talking about Wi-Fi in the car, bandwidth, sufficient bandwidth, 4G, where we're not dealing with the problems of the caps, I think the demise of broadcast radio is going to be as quick as the demise of Blockbuster renting DVDs.
Yeah.
But let's also take into account government regulation, because there are already people who are calling for restrictions on technology in cars because of the distraction and number of accidents that are caused by text or by manipulating these onboard systems in cars, GPS systems and things like that. So you may get to the point where government comes in and says, nope, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. Not that I want to see that happen, but they may intervene.
The government is inherently stupid because, I mean, anytime, case in point, any city, town, state that has implemented a law that says you can't talk on your cell phone unless it's hands-free is just stood up in front of the world and said, we are really stupid and do not understand people or technology. Because the act of talking on the phone is what distracts the driver, not the requirement to hold it in your hand.
Yep.
I mean, it's just insane. I was reading, unrelated, a book a day or so ago. It's about disruptive medicine. It's really interesting, one doctor's interpretation of how technology is going to impact medicine. In fact, there may be some discussions here in the future from that, since we like to talk about technology. But one of the things he talks about is some testing that he did as a doctor that had to do with breaking up blood clots. And the testing that they did was a particular drug. Actually, as I recall, I don't want to get all the details right, but it was part of the time that Plavix and some of these other drugs were coming on the market. They're very expensive, and they were doing some testing with a drug that was well known and not so expensive. The testing that they did showed that as they were doing, they found a blood clot from a person who had a blood clot and an associated heart attack. And what they did was they ran catheters down in the neck and catheters up the leg to get to the heart. And as they got the catheter closer to the blood clot and they started injecting this drug, they did not know what dosage to use. So they started out by using 20 milligrams. But at the same time that they were injecting this drug into the bloodstream, they were also having to inject dye from the neck so that their equipment would allow them to see how quickly the blood clot broke up, if it did, to determine the efficacy of the medicine being injected. Well, sure enough, after, I don't know, several minutes of injecting the drug into the blood system, they got 20 milligrams into the blood system, the clot started breaking down, and eventually it did break down, and the patient was relieved of the problem. They were ecstatic. Everything was great. Man, this drug was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. They tried repeating the test, but they didn't get the same results. You know why? Two reasons. One, it turns out that at 20 milligrams, the drug was totally ineffective. It really took 200 milligrams to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. Number two, they found out that the mere act of injecting the dye into the bloodstream was causing the blood clot to break up. This is the kind of data that the government regulates with. They say, oh yeah, 20 milligrams, great, let's prove it, it's good, let's go with it. I don't care that it's going to cost you $1,000 a month. We've had, it has saved the life of one person out of 100. Now, don't worry about the undesirable side effects on 48 of the other 100. But that one person, it's just silly. Don't get me started.
Spence, you were going to say something? You're muted if you are trying to talk.
No, I know. I was muting because I was coughing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of prescriptions that are written off-label because doctors realize that they do other things, and yet I know that they're trying to crack down on so-called off-label prescriptions, prescribing something that has a secondary effect that isn't really documented or recommended.
Viagra was developed as a drug to treat heart conditions.
Yeah.
Turned out to be one to
treat.
I
mean, it's a vasodilator, right? So it's does things.
Let's switch here a little bit.
Well, before you do,
okay.
Jerry Lee Lewis says, I didn't get the point of that. The dye broke up the clot, and then what? the point, and I appreciate you saying that, because if I didn't make it clear, I wanted to try to make it clear. The point was that the test that this doctor did was invalid because they were looking at the new drug as being the solution to the blood clots and how it worked effectively, when in fact the testing procedure was flawed. It was the dye being inserted into the bloodstream that caused the blood clot to break up. The point was the test was invalid, and prescribing instructions were written, research was directed, things happened as a result of this test when in fact the results were not valid. All I'm saying is that everything is not as it appears, and you need to be careful what you test and how you do things, and the government is not always guilty of being very careful about it, how it approves and regulates things.
All right. So the French government was unhappy with Amazon for offering better prices than the French competition and strongly limited the amount by which retailers can discount books. Last month, the French Parliament also passed a law banning free delivery of books. Ars Technica reports that Amazon has responded with a 1 penny shipping rate on the orders that would previously have shipped free. So instead of making it free, they're charging a penny. And that interesting.
This comes from the same country that at one time tried to ban words from their dictionary because they may have been put into use by another country. So if there was a word there was an English word like hip-hop that didn't have a French equivalent, it was banned. These people are insane.
But it's
Spencer, you say that, and I can't prove it, but I have it on good authority that Duke University is publishing a list of words that may not be used in its complex.
Well, that's for political correctness. France was just worried about diluting their own language with words that come from other, like the German dictionary was modified. Remember, this is the same argument that was going on at the same time. The German dictionary was actually modified and added English words that had become part of the popular culture. But France refused to do so. But Duke is doing it for a different reason. They're doing it for political correctness, which is sad. But
interesting.
They're afraid that people might get offended. Hey, you can come out and say the sky is blue, and there might be one person who is offended, so they'll ban you saying that.
Yeah, well, I guess we're going to have to start making known what's being said that offends us.
Yeah, if you're offended, you just say, oops, sorry, I don't like that, and walk away.
You can't say that. No, you can't say that. Oh, well, you can't say that.
Oh no, here we go. Yeah, you guys don't have to deal with it like I do, though.
Well, how do you have to deal with it?
Everything in school is about political correctness. You can't say anything that could possibly offend anybody.
Yep.
Or what?
I don't know. Who cares?
Well, you've got the vultures out there in the school systems. They are the people that are trying to change the future. They're activists. They're not teachers anymore. They're activists. And they're being driven by wanting to change the agenda.
So, Mike.
Yes.
You're not going to Lowe's much anymore, huh?
I have been to Lowe's probably once in the last 3 months.
Well, you need to start going to Home Depot.
I've been to Home Depot once in the last 3 months.
Well, if you're looking
I guarantee you their bottom line is suffering.
If you're looking for a 3D printer to help you out with a home project or two, if you're in one of the 12 pilot programs areas in the U.S., step into Home Depot to take a look at and purchase a MakeBot 3D replicator printer.
MakerBot 3D.
MakerBot, yeah. The pilot program will offer the microwave size MakerBot replicator printers priced at $2,899 for sale, as well as the smaller replicator minis, which lists for $1,375. This will open up the whole world of 3D printing to people who wouldn't otherwise know about it, like moms and dads, electricians, contractors, and do-it-yourselfers, home improvement folks.
See, the only problem with this story is that the MakerBot is extremely overpriced.
For now.
No,
Well,
it's not that.
I don't know what 3D printers go for, but I would say that $2,800 and $1,300 is expensive.
Oh, it is. You can go on eBay, buy the parts, and build it for like $600, maybe less. For whatever reason, people have this loyalty to MakerBot, and I don't get it. I'm not impressed with what they're doing at all. They're just like they're the Apple of 3D printers, and for whatever reason, people think they need to buy them.
And I don't know what I would want one for a home do-it-yourselfer. Why would I want a printer like? Because it's not like you go in and you click the button that says "Make me an outlet." For everything, you're probably going to need to have all these files that are not easy. What?
You do a Google search. What do you mean? You don't have to program it.
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe for standard things, yeah. But anyway, it's going to be a lot more expensive than.
Here's a 3D printer on eBay from CTC, and this is a pretty common 3D printer, and it's $500.
What are they using? What are they building the parts out of? These days?
Oh, like the actual ink?
Yeah, well, it's not ink. It's some kind of...
That's what they call it. They call it ink. It's like it looks like it's a little bit thicker than like fishing line, and it's just kind of.
So is it
moves around and.
So it's still all kind of some type of plastic.
Yeah, it's an X and Y. It's a head on X and Y axis, and the people have made the coordinates for printing, like you said, what did you say, a light switch or something?
I mean, once they start using some type of like metal shavings or something like that you.
What did you say the thing you wanted to print that you said you'd have to program?
I don't know. I was just. I mean, everything I was reading about is. Oh, I was talking about like an outlet. I mean, electrician.
And
I say, you go to a house and to the house and say, I need to replace the outlet, so let me print one. It's probably going to cost a fortune to print one. Between the price of the printer and the quote-unquote ink for it and all that when you can just go to Home Depot and buy one for 40, 50, 60 cents?
Donovan is in the business. He says there are a lot of files available to print a wide variety of things. It's using extruded filament, plastic filament, ABS or PLA typically. So I guess that's going to make it difficult to print body organs.
Yeah.
They're talking about printing food now because they have cartridges that'll contain different food extracts that they could build your hamburger for you.
Yeah, I need to talk to Nabil to start filling up those cartridges.
Yeah. And you can take body parts and grind it up and make a puree out of it and put it in there, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, very appetizing. But
not much use for a lung made out of ABS is.
Well, you say that.
Huh?
You say that. I don't know. There probably are going to be certain things like stents and other
yeah,
things.
stents is fine, but I'm talking about lung, about a heart.
While we're on the medical issue, I wanted to go back. Jerry Lee Lewis was saying something about some issues he had with steroids and lidocaine with regard to back treatment and how people were treated for 15 years with certain treatments, steroids, things like that. But I mentioned it here before. We've got people here now who were not here before, so I will repeat myself. I went to a conference, a university research conference, and I believe it was out in California, at a major drug manufacturing company. And I was in the room of about 200 top scientists in the country, actually in the world, with regard to medical drugs, equipment, things like that. And somewhere, a lot of the stuff was over my head, so I didn't really get it. But one of the things that was said during the meeting was that the efficacy rate of the drugs prescribed by doctors as a whole, taken as a whole, take all the prescriptions that every doctor in the United States writes, he said they have an efficacy rate of 30%. And I sort of I didn't think I heard that. And at the end of the presentation, there were probably 4 or 5 guys on the panel. At the end of the presentation, okay, anybody have any questions? And at the risk of making myself look totally stupid, I went ahead and took the risk, raised my hand. I said, did I understand you to say that 70% of all prescriptions do not work? He said, no, we said they have a 30% efficacy rate. And then they smiled, which is the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. They were trying to focus on the positive instead of the negative. That means 7 out of 10 times that you go to the doctor, get a prescription, have the prescription filled, start taking the drug, it doesn't do what the doctor intended it to do.
Amnon, I posted in the... Sorry to cut you off, Mike.
Well, I was going to add one. This next one did not come from that conference, so don't attach any significance to it. But there's also another statistic that says that 50% of the time that you go to the doctor, you're misdiagnosed. Now, if that is a correct statistic, and I can't prove it, if that's a correct statistic, that means that 30% of your drugs are effective, but 50% of the time they're giving you for the wrong condition. So that means that 15% of the time that you get a medication, it's doing what you and the doctor want it to do. Now go ahead.
And I posted the link to your outlet in there.
The what?
Cover. I posted the link to the outlet cover, the 3D model for it.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So the stuff is out there.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I like rounded edges. I don't like those sharp edges.
There's a million of them. You just got to search for them.
Well,
Nick, this will be good for your professor at school.
Professor? I go to high school. There's no professors.
Yeah, well, the teacher. News that a UK study has found that folks concerned about climate change don't do much to conserve power at home. From the article, it says, those who say they are concerned about the prospect of climate change consume more energy than those who say it is too far into the future to worry about. The study commissioned by the Department of Energy and Climate Change found that they did that study. It says that that is in part due to age, as people over 65 are more frugal with electricity, but much less concerned about global warming. However, even when pensioners are discounted, there is only a weak trend to show that people who profess to care about climate change do much to cut their energy use. The findings were based on the Household Electricity Survey, which closely monitored the electricity use and views of 250 families over a year. The report by experts from Loughborough University, and Cambridge Architectural Research was commissioned and published by DECC. High power use doesn't have to be dirty. Replace coal, methane, and petroleum with nuclear, wind, solar, etc. So, and I always think about this when I hear people, talking about, we can't have all this gas fumes and all this pollution. And I said, okay, so what kind of car do you drive? It's just amazing how easy it is to talk about it, but when it comes to doing something about it, oh no, other people will do it. I don't need to do it, right?
Well, that's because it's not about doing anything. It's about feeling good about feeling that something should be done.
Yeah. Now,
or scamming others out of their money.
The what? Or
scamming others out of their money.
Mike, or anybody, did any of you use web-based password managers?
Never.
Nope.
Good. A group of researchers from University of California at Berkeley have analyzed 5 popular web-based password managers and have discovered vulnerabilities that could allow hackers to learn a user's credentials for arbitrary website.
I'm shocked.
5 password managers they analyzed are LastPass, RoboForm, My1Login, PasswordBox, and NeedMyPassword. Of the 5 vendors whose products were tested, only the last one, NeedMyPassword, didn't respond when they contacted them and responsibly shared their findings. The other 4 have fixed the vulnerabilities within days after disclosure. Since our analysis was manual, it is possible that other vulnerabilities lie undisclosed, they pointed out.
So there are a lot of tech people that I not that I look up to, but that I think agree with their opinions that use these services, and I think they are insane.
Yes, they are.
All right. Let me give you another perspective on it that you may not have thought about. And this has happened, but do you realize, it's only logical, that if you upload your passwords and account numbers to a website, let's say that it's the login to your credit card account or your bank account, right?
Mm-hmm.
Such that you log in to move money, your PayPal account, you log in to move money from one account to another, right?
Right.
Or send money. You have now breached the terms of service on the contract you have with that financial provider. And on a credit card, let's say that you upload your password and username login information to one of the web services. Someone hacks it, logs into your checking account, and transfers your money to themselves.
Right.
The bank doesn't have to make good on it because you breached the terms of service. Their terms of service require that you not give that password or log into a third person. They don't have to put your money back in that account.
Spence, you were going to say?
No, I'm not surprised.
Well, it makes sense. Come on.
Look, all you have to do is come up with a really good scheme for passwords.
Right.
I mean, like mine, I'm really creative because I use the word password plus my birth, the year I was born. And what I don't tell anybody is I capitalize the P, and I'll never tell them I was born in 1953. So I'm totally safe.
Just hacked your PayPal account. Haha.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I do the word password in caps.
See, now you got to go change it.
Yeah, no, I think people are insane. Like, there are high tech reporters that are using these services. I mean, what are these people thinking?
I'll tell you what.
Who is LastPass?
I'll tell you what they're thinking. You can go out and drive an automobile 90 miles an hour all you want to until you get caught. They haven't been caught yet, so it's a wonderful thing. And driving 90 miles an hour gets you to your destination much quicker than driving 30.
I will be happy the day that like LastPass gets compromised and everybody's bank accounts and PayPal accounts and everything else gets compromised.
Well, you know, I've told you in the past, one guy I watched had the absolute best solution to identity theft. He says that make sure all your credit accounts are maxed out.
There you go.
And here's another thing. Microsoft has attempted to compete in the small screen tablet market with Windows 8.1 and Windows RT. But it looks like the growing adoption of small screen Android tablets are just too much for Lenovo to handle. Lenovo has slammed the brakes on sales of small screen Windows tablets in the United States, citing a lack of interest from consumers. In fact, Lenovo has stopped selling the 8-inch ThinkPad 8 and the 8-inch Mix 2. Fortunately, these small screen Windows tablets have seen some success in Brazil, China, and Japan, so Lenovo will focus on efforts there. Microsoft also recently scrapped plans for the rumored Surface Mini. So everybody's going to their smaller screens and are not looking at those 8-inch. And is that what you understand from the story?
I didn't see the story, but I've looked at. I'm a big Lenovo fan. My notebook computers are all Lenovo, and in fact, my work i7 notebook is a Lenovo. I really like Lenovo products.
Yeah.
However, any manufacturer who has a bunch of products is going to have some that are awkward. I mean, even Apple with the Mac Pro looks like a trash can and doesn't have audio inputs on it. Even that's awkward. But all that being said, the products that I've seen without having touched or used, the Lenovo portable tablet type products, based on what I've seen online, I'd rather have an iPad.
Okay.
I suspect it's just market acceptance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old saying we like to say that a lot of these companies are answering questions that no one's asking.
Now, Mike.
Well, Jerry Lee Lewis says customer service for Lenovo put them on my ban list. My experience has been just the opposite. Customer service for Lenovo has put them at the top of my list.
Absolutely.
Unbeknownst to me, I found out that my new computer has a 3-year 24/7 warranty on it, and I was blown away by that.
I've seen customers coming here with Lenovo's, and I ask them if they already called Lenovo to get help from them because these are, a year or 2-year-old machines. I say no. And we try to call Lenovo, and Lenovo would be so helpful, and I'll stop and I said, you know what, the customer is going to call you directly. And I give him the computer. I said, just go home and call Lenovo. They'll fix it. They are so good. I don't have anything bad to say about them either. But, Mike, something up your alley, and tell me, how can they do this? A business who received a negative review online decided to retaliate with legal complaints. In August of last year, a French food blogger posted a review of an Italian restaurant called El Giordano. The restaurant owners responded with legal threats based on the claim that they lost business from search results which included the review. The blogger deleted the post, but that wasn't enough. She was brought to court, and a fine of 1,500 euros, which is 2,000 and some dollars, was imposed. She also had to pay court costs, which added another 1,000 euros. The blogger said recently several writers in France were sentenced in similar proceedings for defamation, invasion of privacy, and so on. I don't see the point of criticism if it's only positive. It's clear that online people are suspicious of places that only get positive reviews. You go and you write a review, and it's not just a person, it's a blogger that does it and probably does a lot of it, and she probably shows that she has others, and court sides with the business owner?
Yeah, look at the country, Amnon.
I know, that doesn't matter, the country. I'm talking about in general common sense.
There's no common sense.
I know.
Common sense in law doesn't make any sense.
That's ridiculous.
Jerry Lee Lewis and I are going to disagree on something. He said Gore never argues that individual action will fix the problem. That's not hypocritical. The change has to be systemic. And no, what he wants to do is he wants to tell me how to live my life and how I need to use one piece of toilet paper when he's using a roll, and that's hypocritical. And so he and I agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to your issue, Amnon, we're over time here, and I'm sure my lunch is ready. But
sheesh.
In every case that, like you have just cited, that I've investigated, I have found, I know this is a shock, I have found that the reporting on the story is very much flawed. And in fact, in one case where this lady was crying the blues about how she had been sued by a website for her review, I actually dug deeply enough to be able to find the review. And remember that at least in the United States, that for criticism or for libel or slander, truth is an absolute defense. And I'm just make up a really stupid example. If I call someone a homosexual and they take offense at it and sue me for slander, I'd better have a picture of that person incognito. I mean, as long as it's absolute truth, as long as it can be proved, the suit is over. In the case that I researched and saw the criticism, it wasn't, hey, service was bad, the waiter was rude. It was, these guys are serving food that will poison you. Your life will come to an end if you eat there. The chef is molesting little boys in between fixing plates. I mean, it was
that's different. Yeah, that's not a review. You know? That's no, absolutely not.
And now, where did you get the article from?
From Slashdot.
Was it linked to another?
It was something about writing reviews in France. Something.
No, I'm saying, did it was it a Slashdot user report, or was it linked from like a tech blog?
Not sure.
Oh, okay. That's just what I was wondering.
Let me also say that, and we'll end on this, I hope. We've talked about it before, and I would ask people, if you're interested in the topic, to do a little research on Yelp.com.
Yes.
Because I know from firsthand experience that there are businesses that are being dramatically impacted by negative Yelp.com reviews.
Did you not hear about in the last 2 days what's going on with Yelp?
Please tell me.
Oh, they are. So companies are paying Yelp to show up higher on listings, and companies that are not paying Yelp are not showing up as much.
Well, that's not the last 2 days. That's been going on for the last 5 years.
Yeah, but it just came out. Well, I saw this somewhere.
Well, but here's the point. I can't say, I'm not slandering or libeling Yelp because I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to share with you what has been told to me, so it's rumor to rumor, that, for example, restaurants that have bunches of positive and negative reviews, so reportedly have been contacted by Yelp to buy advertising on the site. And I know of one restaurant that refused to do it because they didn't have the money, and within a week, every single positive review on Yelp.com disappeared.
Yeah, this is the article I'm reading from Forbes is if a company gets a bad review and they're paying Yelp, the review just disappears.
But the other side of that I heard, I can't verify it, I was told this. What I heard is that if you don't buy the advertising, the positive reviews disappear. Not
I
the
heard that as well.
That's different. It's a mirror image of that. And I will tell you that what I am familiar with is a business that claims to have been hurt by negative Yelp reviews. Well, that being said, I did personally witness someone gaming Yelp, and Yelp didn't pick up on it. I saw it. But I will tell you that whenever I'm doing research on whether to go to a restaurant or a store, I no longer trust Yelp reviews.
Good. I don't trust any of the reviews because I believe that half the reviews are the company paying people to write the reviews anyway.
Well, to Yelp's credit, they have come up with some algorithms that allow them to sort of catch these ringers. And I think it's their obligation to catch these ringers doing that. For example, and I don't know if this was Yelp or another site, but it was a product or a company or something that I was reading the reviews on, and there were like 7 positive reviews, and they all were made in October 2013.
Yeah, how does that work?
How does that work?
Well, I mean, but remember one thing, Mike. I mean, if I hear on the news that a certain restaurant, the cook had hepatitis, I'm not going to go in there.
Of course not. What if you found out that the report was wrong?
You still have something in the background, that in the back of your mind that says, well, maybe it was wrong. But am I going to take a chance? I mean, I want Italian food, so am I going to go to this restaurant, or should I rather go to that other restaurant that has the same kind of food?
Jerry Lee Lewis says, my business has been hurt by Google Maps. An iPhone knows exactly where my business is. Google can't get within a block. They have them on the wrong side of the street.
I think there's a way to fix that.
I think they will accept input from you to solve that, because a friend of mine had exactly the same thing happen. I don't recall whether he had it fixed, but I would certainly at least investigate that if you haven't done already.
I can confirm that is a legitimate thing. Can
you get it fixed?
The experience that my friend's family's restaurant did, yes, they got it fixed.
Yeah, Google is interested. I mean, the problem is with Apple Maps, they'll have you in the wrong city.
Yeah, no, Google is not out. Google Maps is not out there to get stuff wrong. I mean, they're trying to be the best mapping service on the internet.
The face of the earth.
If you contact them and can prove that you're the business, I don't think you'll have any problem at all.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you. Spence, anything else you wanted to add real quick?
No, just that I miss talking to you guys. I wish I had more time off.
You have specials?
Yeah. Don't shop up here. It's expensive.
All right. Thanks, Spence, Nick, Mike. Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, and tune tomorrow to Health In, Breaking Free, and the Tanya Love Show in the evening. See you, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.